In 3,082 games across the 100 years of Michigan hockey, the Michigan Wolverines have never played this close to the equator until tonight. Previously, U of M had played in Glendale, Arizona against Arizona State in 2017, and in Los Angeles, California against the University of California Bears in 1949. Both were multi-goal victories for the men wearing winged helmets. Tonight, however, the Wolverines will travel farther south than they ever have before by participating in the 2023 NCAA Frozen Four at Amalie Arena here in Tampa, Florida. It's a location that exudes recent glory owing to the dynastic dominance of John Cooper's Tampa Bay Lightning. Michigan hopes that some of that winning magic rubs off on them tonight as they seek to reach the program's 13th NCAA tournament title game, which would tie North Dakota for most all time. Ultimately, Michigan wants to snare that elusive 10th title that has avoided them since 1998. The Quinnipiac Bobcats of Hamden, Connecticut stand in their way, though. QU is 2-0 in their prior 2 national semifinal games, but have yet to win it all. For these Bobcats, under longtime head coach Rand Pecknold, a national title is the eventual goal. Quinnipiac Hobie Baker finalist goalie Yaniv Peretz and forward Colin Graff look to shut down Michigan's attack and play with pace on their own attack, respectively. We all know the talent Michigan possesses all over the ice, so, unsurprisingly, the University of Michigan's key to the game are 2 players we've seen perform at the highest level all season long. Goalie Eric Portillo and center Adam Fantilli. If the Wolverines can start fast and play disciplined, they'll have a path to beating Quinnipiac for the 2nd consecutive postseason. My name is William Gregory, and for WCBN Sports, I welcome in my broadcast partner for tonight, David Kramer. David, I mentioned the Wolverines are needing to play with discipline to start out this game. We all know about their penalty problems. Michigan is ranked 3rd to last in team penalty minutes in the country, with their players spending nearly 10 minutes in the box per game. With how experienced these Bobcats are, they will skate 7 grad students tonight, and how inexperienced the Wolverines' most productive players have proven to be, Michigan's points getting comes from freshmen 51.9% of the time. How is it going to be possible for Michigan to stay disciplined tonight?
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction, William. Tonight also marks another important event, perhaps even more significant than another opportunity for the Wolverines to claim that NCAA title. Potentially my final broadcast of my own WCBN career. So for those of you who have so kindly followed me these past 4 years, thank you. And for those of you just tuning in for the first time, welcome. We hope you enjoy the show. Regarding your question, William, I believe it comes down to something that Quinnipiac's head coach, Rand Pecknold, mentioned earlier this week. Regarding Michigan, their team is talented, and we have to respect that, but we can't respect that too much. While Quinnipiac is not nearly as penalized as the Wolverines, they'll be coming into tonight's game knowing that they have significantly less talent than their opponents. And according to the data, a far easier road to the semifinals as well. So for teams in that position, like we've seen with much of the Big Ten, it usually ends up getting physical. The Wolverines are going to have to lean on their back lines and supporting cast in those bottom 6 matchups. So, in my opinion, the Wolverines can expect to see some rough play from the more experienced Bobcats. My prediction is that for Michigan, their edge and talent up and down the lineup is going to be pretty hard to beat. I think it's going to come down to puck possession, right? I mean, we were talking with some of the lovely broadcasters from Quinnipiac's own student radio, and they were mentioning that the key strengths coming out of this Bobcats ice hockey team is their ability to possess the puck against some more skilled opponents, and also their power play is pretty underrated as well. Some of the highest performing power plays in the league. What do you think about the Wolverines stopping their season tradition of being among the most penalized teams in the league? Is that possible tonight, or are they just going to keep rolling?
With tensions running high, being in the Frozen Four, and for a lot of these young players, freshmen like Adam Fantilli, Gavin Brindley, Seamus Casey, and Jackson Hallam, I don't know if it's possible to keep those tempers in check. We've seen this team play with fire all year, and it's a fire that can be dangerous, but it's also the fire that has ignited them to 26 wins this season.
Yes.
In the toughest conference in college hockey. Saturday night, the winner of this game is going on to play the University of Minnesota, who won their game against Boston University 6-2. Now, it was closer than the score indicates. There were 2 empty net goals towards the end of the third period. And Boston had been playing with Minnesota for most of the game before they let it get away in that first half of the third period area. They just couldn't outlast the Golden Gophers and their dearth of talent all across that roster, NHLers, two of the finalists, top 3 finalists for the Hobie Baker Award, Matthew Nyes and Logan Cooley. So it'll be a tough test for whoever advances, Quinnipiac or Michigan, to face that Golden Gopher squad Saturday at 8. But tonight, like you said, David, like you asked me, I think it's going to be tough for Michigan to play under control. We've seen this team be really excited all year, play with a lot of energy. There were points in the season when they might have come out a bit flat, but I think they've found that energy. They've now racked up 6 consecutive wins. They have a chance tonight to match their season-long winning streak of 7 games, which stretched from their last regular season win against Minnesota, which was in early January, up until the duel and the D win against Michigan State in overtime. Then they dropped the next game to Ohio State in Columbus, but they've won 6 straight since then, including one over Minnesota. So Michigan matches up well, I think, with Minnesota, probably the best in the country. I think Quinnipiac's talent difference will be too much for them to overcome if they were to advance in this game and play Minnesota.
No, certainly. I completely agree with you, and I think it would be surprising to see a run come from, without undermining the incredible talent and the incredible hard work that Quinnipiac has demonstrated this season. And they're the winningest team in the country, if I stand corrected. I think there's something that I do want to talk about, though, and it's this notion that experience outweighs talent in tournament play, no matter the sport, but especially in hockey. You hear that all the time with the pros. You want those veterans in the lineup. You want those experienced players who have that grit, who know what it takes to win. But if we're looking at Quinnipiac's history in this tournament, they haven't really demonstrated that experience. All these grad students they have on their roster is going to be able to take them past the semifinals, or even in the past couple years, the quarterfinals. So, if you ask me, I might be biased considering we are WCBN Radio, we're not QCBN Radio. I think that the Wolverines' talent is something that, sure, they're going to get more penalties, right? They can afford to take those penalties, but correct me if I sound a bit, if this sounds crazy or out of left field. The Wolverines only just have to score more goals than Quinnipiac. They can afford to get those penalties because they have production up and down the lineup. Sure, 51.6% of those of that scoring has come from those freshmen. But if you look, this team is filled with freshmen. This third line, Jackson Hallam, Frank Nazar the third, 2 freshmen, with Eric Ciccolini as a senior. The second line, completely freshman. The first line, TJ Hughes being a freshman. Most of the seniority is on that back end on the defense.
Well, so you mentioned that back end. Nolan Moyle is the captain of this team. He is, and we'll get into the last time these two teams met, Quinnipiac and Michigan, later in the broadcast. Michigan won that matchup in the regional in Allentown 7-4. Nolan Moyle is the only returning goal scorer in that game on this team this year. He scored 2 in that game. He is as senior gets on this team. He's the captain, that's why. And
he has their number, by the way.
That's what we've heard from those involved with Quinnipiac, that Nolan Moyle will be dangerous in this game, and I'm sure he's going to get a lot of ice time. He's gotten some in these postseason games so far. But David, you talked about Quinnipiac's talent not necessarily matching up to their experience, and their experiences in the postseason haven't led them to a national title. They are untitled as of yet.
Yes.
The last time they made the Frozen Four was in 2016, which was the end of their 4 consecutive NCAA regional tournament appearances.
Yes, losing to North Dakota in that 2016 final.
And we'll talk about that more also. They've lost both of their trips that they've taken to the title games, and they're on a current 4-year streak in the NCAA regional tournaments as well, dating back to 2019, which is tied for 3rd as the longest in hockey that's an active streak right now, but they haven't been able to burst through. This is only the 9th time they have gone to the NCAA tournament, only the 3rd time they've been in the Frozen Four. They're as unproven in this set of Frozen Four teams as it gets, as Minnesota, BU, and Michigan are 3 of the most successful college hockey programs in the country, with upwards of 5 titles for each of them. Quinnipiac is the lone without one. So the pedigree just isn't there, and that's what a lot of people talked about in their conference, the ECAC, which includes a lot of Ivy League schools and schools around New York, Union College.
That's where forward Colin Graff was playing just last year.
Yeah, and he came over. We were talking to Quinnipiac Radio. They said he was a complete surprise, only totaled, I think it was 22 points last season at Union. He comes over to Quinnipiac and gives them a bona fide scorer. He's a Hobie Baker finalist this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think, it's interesting. The Wolverines, I wouldn't exactly say they're playing with the house's money, because there is now at least this expectation that they come to, that they make it this far, given the fact that their recruiting has just developed, it's blossomed into some of the best recruiting in college hockey, tying them probably with Harvard, the Boston schools. I can't really think of any other programs, especially in the Big Ten. Maybe Minnesota, that has reached the level of just NHL talent coming in from these freshman classes. And look out next year. The Wolverines have a ton of a ton of incredibly talented athletes coming to this hockey team. But for Quinnipiac at least, this is the end of the line for a lot of these players, at least in their college hockey careers, and they don't have as many NHL prospects on their lineup as the Wolverines do. I mean, if we're looking here at their lineup, Sam Lipkin, who's a first year, right? He's a Coyotes prospect. Chase Clark, their third goalie, another first year. He's a Capitals product. And then senior Skylar Brindamore, he is an Oilers product, but I think a fifth or sixth round pick.
He was a sixth round pick in 2017, which is now 7 drafts ago once we get to the next 2023 NHL entry draft. He's an old man in this lineup. He's one of a lot of graduates. Chase Clark looking to transfer at the end of the year. We're going to pause for about 2 minutes for the national anthem as we unfurl the colors here from Tampa. Please stick around. We will be right back. If that doesn't get you ready for some hockey, I don't know what will. All that's missing is the Canadian national anthem, as we're used to at Yost Ice Arena in Ann Arbor. But the Quinnipiac Peck Band does a great job giving us a rendition of the United States national anthem. Quinnipiac is the home team tonight, as they are the number 2 seed. Michigan is the 3 seed, owing to that 32-4-3 record of the Bobcats. Michigan enters 26-11-3. Only 2 losses in conference for Quinnipiac. And Michigan has their work cut out for them in this game.
Certainly.
It's a very veteran team that's ready to play tonight, wanting their first national title. And Michigan, though, wanting their first national title in 25 years.
And we see here on the ice now the ceremonial puck drop dropped by Michigan State alumni and his daughter there. The ceremonial puck drop, the 2 captains, Zach Metza for Quinnipiac and Nolan Moyle as well. Two captains not necessarily known for their goal scoring, but certainly their physicality and leadership that's taken their teams really far, both in the regular season and here in the playoffs here in Amalie Arena. So for those at home listening to this broadcast, I want you to know something special about this arena. Not only is it home to the Tampa Bay Lightning, but it's also home to a Tesla coil that replicates a lightning strike every time a goal is scored. And so the first game that we were lucky enough to watch was between Boston University and the Minnesota Golden Gophers. 8 goals scored between these 2 teams, and heard plenty of lightning. It's probably about 100 feet or so directly in front of us here in the broadcast booth, and I promise you, it has startled me every single time. So if you hear me jump or whelp a little bit, it is because we, even though we're seeing these goals happen live, it is pretty scary to see that lightning happen.
Well, and Michigan fans are hoping that lightning goes off at all times tonight. Sorry, David. The lines for the Wolverines to start: Gavin Brindley, Adam Fantilli, and Rucker McGroarty out there at forward. Keaton Pearson and Luke Hughes. Now for Quinnipiac, Jake Johnson and Zach Metza, the graduate captain, Metza, in at defense. And the second line starters will be out there: Desi Burgart, Skylar Brindamore, and Ethan DeYoung for the Bobcats. We're all set here at Amalie Arena in Tampa Bay, Florida for the opening puck drop, which is won away by the Wolverines after a broken stick flies onto the ice following that face-off. It is... Can't tell who doesn't have the stick out there on the ice right now. I think it's been recovered. But in any event, the Bobcats end up with the puck after a turnover in the Michigan offensive end. They put a quick shot on Eric Portillo. It goes wide of the net. All the way back around to the right side, just before the blue line, ends up with Desi Burgart. His shot is also wide. The stick of Gavin Brindley corrals it for the Wolverines. Trying to get over center ice is Michigan. They just end up dumping it into the Bobcats zone, in the Bobcats end. Excuse me. Now around behind Portillo, fought for Luke Hughes and Colin Graff, the Hobie Baker finalist for these Bobcats, behind the Michigan net. Now in the right corner, it's fought and won by TJ Hughes. Passes to Pearson, attempts one all the way up ice across the neutral zone to Dylan Duke. It misses his stick, and it crosses over for an icing.
So you'll see that aggressive forecheck from Quinnipiac. That's something we talked about before the game and really understood from our research these past couple of weeks as we saw the Wolverines progress to this semifinals here in Tampa. Look out for that second line. Skylar Brindamore and Ethan DeYoung, the pair on that second line, have been the finalists for Defensive Forward of the Year in the ECAC the last 2 years.
Jacob Quillen and TJ Hughes face off in the Wolverine end. It's won by Michigan, but they end up dumping the puck down towards Quinnipiac's end, where the Bobcats pick it up before turning it over to Stephen Holtz. Now across the neutral zone, Ethan Edwards slaps one forward. It's turned over. Now picked up on the left side by the Bobcats. They send one back down behind Portillo's net. He relays to a teammate. It's Frank Nazar crossing neutral ice and is poke-checked away. Check the number on that. I think it was DeYoung, who is last year's Defensive Forward of the Year in the ECAC. This year it was Skylar Brindamore, his line mate, his center, on that line. Those are two very stout defensive forwards on a team that doesn't really have big bruisers on the back line.
No, that's for sure. I think their most prolific bruiser is certainly not their biggest. Their captain, Zach Metza, maybe C.J. McGee. Zach Metza at 5'9", so maybe more of a pint-size bruiser at that. So the face-off here at center ice now. We'll get ready to see what that fourth line for the Wolverines does.
It's Marcus Stoppa taking a face-off at center ice. It's won away by Michigan. Nick Granowitz, left side Nolan Moyle, scored 2 games last year in the game against Quinnipiac. The only returning goal scorer for the Wolverines on this version of the team. Granowitz behind the Bobcat net, skating around, trying to avoid defenders by the Bobcats. Eventually loses the puck before it's recovered across center ice by Keaton Pearson. Pearson now skating up the right side. Not pressured at all by the Quinnipiac defense. Drops it off to Luke Hughes, who pins it back behind the boards. Picked up by the goalie Yaniv Peretz. First time we've mentioned his name. Also a Hobey Baker finalist for these Bobcats. He had a stellar season, under 1.5 goals allowed on the year in his second year starting for Quinnipiac. Now, almost an odd man rush opportunity for Ethan DeYoung, and the Bobcats following a line change. DeYoung loses the puck, but he slams Gavin Brindley into the boards. Michigan, though, retains possession of the puck. Sloppy pass gets its way up ice, where Brindley picks it up in the right side corner of Peretz. Is bothered there by Desi Burgart, who picks it up for the Bobcats. Now relays right side, where a teammate is tripped. We'll check the number on that. It looks like Ethan Edwards is going to go to the box for a trip. The Michigan defenseman. I wanted to see who he tripped there on that right side just before the blue line. Waiting to see that number.
From up here, that looks like Ethan DeYoung.
And I think it is, number 10, DeYoung. And did he call a hold? I think he called a holding penalty on that. Yep, it's going to be 2 minutes on Ethan Edwards. So, David, not a great start for Michigan. If Michigan fans wanted them to start quickly and play disciplined, it hasn't happened yet. They haven't gotten many shots on goal, and Ethan Edwards will head to the box. Michigan on the penalty kill. It's fallen a bit as of late, only killing about 77% of the power plays they face. A face-off in their own zone is won by Michigan, but the puck drifts to the net. The stoppage in play will cause it to be reset on that circle.
So the team that I think has exploited the Wolverines the most for their power play, their penalty trouble, is Ohio State. And the similarity I'm noticing even this early in the game is between the forecheck and the aggressive forward defensive play from Ethan DeYoung, at least so far in this game, who's really reminding me of those top line forwards on Ohio State, who really just have a way of getting on the nerves and in the heads of those Wolverine forward group. And so now we see, as the Wolverines start their first penalty kill, we'll see what this Quinnipiac power play is all about.
Face-off in the Michigan zone is won away by the Wolverines and Marcus Stoppa. Trying to clear it out is TJ Hughes, fighting for it along with Colin Graff. It's eventually kept in the zone by Quinnipiac.
DeYoung out there as well for Quinnipiac.
Graff, left side DeYoung, a shot is wide of the net. No attempt for a save by Portillo. It was too wild of a shot, but now Quinnipiac has an advantage. A nice block by Luke Hughes off his skate. Keeps that puck from ending up in a Bobcat stick. And Marcus Stoppa clears it into the neutral zone, where the Bobcats will have to reset. Not a full clear, but enough to get the Wolverines some fresh legs out there. Now a turnover by the Bobcats results in the puck drifting behind the net of Portillo. Luke Hughes tries to send it out, but ends up sending it into the Michigan bench, where we'll have a stoppage in play and a reset on the face-off dot. Farthest from us, but closest to the Michigan end.
So for those at home listening, I'm sure you've heard a lot about the best goalie in the NCAA right now, at least from a record and percentages standpoint, Yaniv Peretz. But look out for the other Hobey Baker finalist on this roster, Colin Graff, who's here on this power play right now. He has been absolutely fantastic this year for the Bobcats.
15:57 remaining in the first period. A minute left on the power play. One-timer shot is just wide, and a rebound is sent away by Jackson Hallam. Michigan, a nice job killing that opportunity for the Bobcats. And the few children of Yost are making their presence known, as Quinnipiac has to retrieve it in their own end off the power play by making that whooping noise that anyone who's traveled to Yost is familiar with. the Bobcats having trouble just getting it out. Brindley pokes it away, and Fantilli nearly had a shot in front of the net to put something on goal shorthanded. And with 30 seconds left in the power play for Quinnipiac, they're trying to just get one more offensive opportunity going. They end up on the left side of the blue line. It's gloved down by Christoph Filion, who sends one wide of the boards. It has to cross over the neutral zone. Filion ends up back with it after a pass from a teammate. 10 seconds left on the power play for the Bobcats. Portillo behind the net, loses the puck, is pressured by a couple Bobcats. They come away with the puck, but the Wolverines evade disaster. Fillier inside. Quinnipiac still another shot for it. The Wolverines can't get the puck out, and they finally just get it out from in front of Portillo. Jacob Quillen had his shot. So did Christophe Tellier. Portillo, a nice block with his glove, but off the rebound, it's sent back in by Jacob Quillen. And the Bobcats are first on the board, 1-0 Quinnipiac.
Wow, and after that really dangerous play with the puck bouncing from Quinnipiac player to Quinnipiac player in front of Eric Portillo's net, desperate to try and cover that puck up here in the dying seconds of that power play. The Wolverines were just caught, tired, with no change ready even after that. Those lines had equalized, and not a great goal that you want to have, especially this early on in the game. The Wolverines are going to be able to they're really going to need to slow down this game, which is not something we're used to saying about this rather fast-paced offense. And
Michigan, it was a nice block by Portillo on the initial shot attempt, but Jacob Quillen just there to register his 17th goal of the year, 35th point overall for the sophomore out of Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. So the Bobcats 1-0, 14-18 remaining in the first period. Not the start Michigan wanted at all, but it's a start they'll have to deal with. Samoskevich behind the net loses the puck. It's picked up by Michael Lombardi. An odd man rush here for Lombardi. The diving attempt by Jay Kiernan. A nice poke check, gets the puck free, and Michigan evades disaster. A possible 2-0 deficit staring them in the face, and Kiernan makes a great play.
Casey keeping that puck in the offensive zone now.
Inside, a shot by Duke is deflected. And off the rebound, it's sent back into the Michigan zone. Seamus Casey will have to reset for the Wolverines. Drops off to Ethan Edwards, back on the ice after committing that holding penalty earlier that led to the Bobcat goal. Edwards fires a puck towards the net, not even close, a little wide right. Hallam trying to fight forward in the right corner. Loses it after being bothered by two Bobcats. Eventually gets it back, keeps it in the zone, passes to Ciccolini. It goes right by his stick. Then the Bobcats send it out. Casey's going to have to reset if he crosses. Maybe not. They don't call an offsides. Casey by himself inside. Casey shot. He scores! Oh, my goodness. Seamus Casey all by himself. The freshman equalizes it with 13:11 to go in the first period.
And Seamus Casey, that's going to be his 8th goal of his freshman career here at the University of Michigan. In his 37th game, bring him to 29 points off of a play that he started, a broken play happening just a minute ago, keeping that puck in. The freshman defenseman, with all of the energy balanced on towards Quinnipiac's side. It's incredible to see how quickly the Wolverines can score and get this game back under their control.
And it looked like the Wolverines hadn't reset it over the red line as they crossed into the neutral zone, but it looked like they did. Apparently, the referees didn't call it offsides, and Casey just took it himself in the confusion, put it in, ties it up. Michigan 1, Quinnipiac 1. So it's back even. Just under 13 minutes to go in the first period, and if that last sequence was evidence of anything, it's that we're in for an exciting night of hockey here in Tampa. These two teams want it more than anything. Rucker McGroarty drops off right side. Fantilli, just a wrister from inside the neutral zone, almost gets to the net. Peretz has to deflect that shot. And off the rebound, it's collected by the Wolverines, but Fantilli gets in. A shot coming from the neutral zone is called offsides. Runs into 3 Bobcats, gets into a bit of a scrum, but Fantilli keeps the cooler head and skates to the bench. No harm, no foul. So these two teams don't know each other exactly well. There's only 8 returners on Michigan from last year's team that played Quinnipiac, but the last time these two played in 2022 in the Allentown Regional Semifinal, Michigan goes up 3-0. Excuse me, 4-0. The Bobcats score 3 unanswered in the third period to make it close 4-3. Michigan scores 3 after that, and they survive, as the MLive quote on your screen says. Michigan wins 7-4, eventually advancing to the Frozen Four, where they lost to Denver in overtime.
You know, it's crazy that was only last year. It feels like these two teams are completely different. Starting in goal this year for Quinnipiac, the Bobcats' own Yaniv Peretz. Last year was Dylan St. Cyr, a name that might sound familiar, as he is a longtime Big Ten goalie with presence both, I believe, on Minnesota, but certainly on Notre Dame as their netminder. Michigan State, yes, for a long time. And then, of course, the Wolverines. That was a team led by Kent Johnson, Matty Beniers, and Owen Power. Luke Hughes and Mackie Samoskevich taking more of a back role there. And Portillo maybe had a better season last year than he did this season. But I mean, these are teams that there are a lot of fresh faces, especially when they're stars. Quinnipiac's leading goal scorer and point getter this year, Colin Graff, the sophomore transfer.
So he was present in that game. And we talked about
Union College.
We talked about Nolan Moyle scoring 2 goals last year in that game. And you just talked about those 4 top 5 picks that the Wolverines had. None of them scored in that game either. It was Jimmy Lambert, Thomas Bordelot, Garrett Van Wy, Michael Pastajoff, and Brendan Brisson for the Wolverines, along with Moyle's 2, that totaled 7.
One name has stayed, and that's Moyle, the captain now.
And he's back on the ice. The Bobcats should be scared of the captain for Michigan, but we're back ready to play. 1-1, 12:25 left in the first period. Very exciting first half of the first period so far. The Bobcats win the faceoff, but they dump it into the Michigan zone. Edwards can't handle it off the boards. Eventually it ends up behind the net, where it's picked up by number 2, Ivari Rasanen, for the Bobcats. He turns it over to Ethan Edwards, who tries to get it up ice. It ends up in the neutral zone, tangled in the skates of a Bobcat. Granowitz cannot end up with it for Michigan, and on the left side it's eventually yielded to the Bobcats, who send it right back down, trying to connect a pass to 13 Christoph Filion. Ends up in the Michigan zone, and Seamus Casey getting a loud score as his goal is announced here at Amalie Arena, unassisted for the freshman. Not often you see that from this Michigan team. They have a lot of points getters who gather a lot of points. Inside is TJ Friedman trying to set up his man Michael Lombardi for an easy shot in the slot, but it's intercepted by Jake Kiernan for Michigan, and will reset on the dot in the Michigan zone.
So about 11:34 remaining in this first period of hockey. The Wolverines and the Bobcats tied at 1 apiece. And at least for the Wolverines, they have outscored this season their opponents 58-32 in the first period. So if things go as they have the past couple of games,
well,
expect to see a couple more goals.
Here comes Samoskevich with a teammate to his left, just dives in front of the net and leaves one short. Peretz deflects it back up to Michael Lombardi, who crosses center ice, dumps it in behind the net, where it's picked up by Luke Hughes, eventually bothered by Lombardi, having to pass it back to Samoskevich on the right side. Mackie wheels around, a nice forecheck being played by Colin Graff and the Bobcats. TJ Hughes sends one in front of the net, and we'll get a fresh set of legs for the Wolverines, as well as the Bobcats. On the left side, puck goes behind the net along the boards to Portillo. And Portillo is just being bothered. He's pressured immediately by the Bobcats whenever it's sent back down to the boards. That pass was rushed. Now in front of the net, Stephen Holtz kicks it out of the slot up to Frank Nazar. One-on-one, Nazar trying to look for help, and he just loses it back to Stephen Holtz. Now left side, Kieran point-to-point. Up to Hallam in the left corner. He loses it, and it's picked up by the Bobcats on the right side. Tangle with the puck is gathered by 16 Jacob Quillen, who scored the goal for the Bobcats on the last shot. A pass by Quillen to the right side to Colin Graff is stopped by Portillo, and we'll have a face-off in the Michigan end with 10:13 to go in the first period.
Well, you'll notice Portillo's game this season has involved a lot more fire, something that has really been the trademark of this Wolverines team this season, being among the most penalized in the entire country. I think Portillo's realized that his size is something that a lot of these teams take advantage of, and they try and push him around, and he's had some difficulty with that, and especially with his possession being a little bit iffy when he gets out of the crease. We could see some sloppiness if play continues.
Brindley trying to make a play happen after Michigan wins the faceoff. They've been dominant in the circle so far today, but a rush by the Wolverines is quelled by the Bobcats. Casey comes away with a puck, sends it behind the boards, where it snakes along the left side to McGroarty. McGroarty loses it on a pass. Trying to get up ice are the Bobcats. A couple defensive plays made in a sequence by Nick Granowitz and Seamus Casey trying to dig that puck out of there. Edwards and Seamus Casey. Eventually it's worked out to the blue line by the Bobcats. They stay with it. Rebound in front of the net. Shot by, that was Ethan DeYoung there in front of the net, is blocked by Portillo, but it stays in Quinnipiac's possession. DeYoung tries to corral a pass, loses it. Lombardi in the left corner can't come away with it. He eventually turns it over to McGroarty, who tries to send it out, but again it's picked up by the Bobcats. A big shot from the right side of the blue line is wide of the net, and eventually Ethan Edwards clears into the Quinnipiac zone, and Michigan slow on the reset off the line change, and a fast break shot by Jake Johnson is gloved calmly by Eric Portillo. And Portillo is really cleaning up for a lot of sloppiness on these line changes and fast breaks that the Wolverines are just giving up.
He is. He certainly is. And the Wolverines here, with the aside from Seamus Casey, not necessarily showing their best defense early on in this first period now. Seamus Casey, though, with a really exceptional display of his hand-eye coordination and his two-way play here back in his own zone, knocking that puck out of midair in order to clear Portillo's crease and prevent another sloppy goal. And so if you're Portillo and if you're Coach Brandon Naruto, no longer the interim but the official head coach of the University of Michigan men's hockey team, deservedly, you're telling your defense it's time to slow things down. Luke Hughes, you are the best defenseman on this team, arguably, at least from a point-getting perspective. You need to demonstrate the reason why you were that 4th overall pick to the New Jersey Devils last year, and to show the two-way play that you're certainly capable of. He has been silent tonight. Sure, it's only been about 11 minutes, but you'd expect to see some more of that top-line talent from both the defense and the offense come out and up against this scrappy Quinnipiac team.
And there's been some criticism about Hughes, how he's played a little more passive and his defense has been lacking over the past few games, especially against Penn State. But right now the Michigan offense also needs to pick up the slack. They're playing a sloppy game, and they're really lucky to be tied. Michigan only has 2 shots on goal. One of them resulted in the Seamus Casey solo shot that he just took himself.
Yeah.
But Portillo has picked up a lot of the burden, and he's played the best for Michigan so far. Their offense has looked sloppy. The defense just hasn't looked energized, which is surprising given that this team is in Tampa in the Frozen Four. They've had 2 weeks off, and maybe that has something to do with it. The rust since that Minnesota game, or excuse me, the regional against Penn State has something to do with it. But with 8:55 remaining in the first period, Michigan still in this tie game, 1-1, has a chance to shake off all that rust and try and get out to an early lead. They win the faceoff, which I've mentioned before they've been dominant in so far, but lose it along the boards. They just immediately dump it up ice. And now a fast break opportunity for the Bobcats, and it's scored. That's the second one for Jacob Quillen on the day. Makes it 2-1 Bobcats.
His 18th goal this season on an incredible solo display of talent on that breakaway. We're going to see who assisted on that goal, but what a great seeing eye pass coming from the Bobcats defense, and some pretty sloppy defensive play again by the Wolverines. You're seeing Pearson and Hughes was
not
getting back.
Hughes was trailing Quillen And there's nothing else Portillo can do. It goes right through his 5-hole, right between his legs. He's played well when his defense has been giving him something, but right now it's like he's playing in a perpetual shootout.
Certainly.
2-1, 8:39 left in the first period. Second goal of the game by Quillen, and the Wolverines need to step it up here. The game that this is automatically reminding me of is the game they played in January at Michigan State at Munn Ice Arena. They would just dump it off into the offensive zone and not really work on completing passes to each other. They would try and manufacture fast breaks, and it led to no offense. If that's the game plan for tonight, it won't look good for Michigan. But we're back underway here, and another pass is just let by Stephen Holtz, and a fast break opportunity is not put in by the Bobcats. They had a silver platter opportunity. Christophe Tellier can't knock it in. Bobcats retain possession. Michigan's got to wake up here. Bobcats still with it. Portillo just knocks it out, and it's still with Christophe Filion. Eventually, it works out to the neutral zone where the Bobcats will have to reset. The Wolverines got to change this line quick. The Bobcats are out and skating. A shot is deflected out of play and a whistle. And the Bobcats really aren't trying to retreat all the way back into their zone to reset. When they see the Wolverines going for a line change, they smell blood in the water, and they're saying attack, attack, attack. Keep that puck in the offensive zone. We don't want the Wolverines facing our defense. Our strong suit is offense.
No, and they're a possession-based team. But by the way, that goal scored by Quillian, his second of the night, assisted by Sam Lipkin and Colin Graff. That first line putting in the work for Quinnipiac tonight.
Casey leaves a defender in the dust trying to check him. Joey Cipollone eventually works behind the net, and Casey drops one off. Now Hallam on the left side. Hallam back over to Nazar. Works up back to Casey on the right side. Casey pass left. Now Edwards, a shot is blocked in front of the net. Stays with Michigan. Edwards loses his stick. It stays in the zone. Casey, hesitation shot is blocked by Peretz, but Seamus Casey has been a one-man wrecking crew on offense, the freshman defenseman. Stays with Michigan. Edwards stays on the ice. Casey goes off. Edwards back behind the net. Almost picked up by Nazar, but it is won by the Bobcats before being lost to Jackson Hallam. He'll reset backwards, crossing center ice up to Nazar, who can't keep that pass in his stick. Loses it, and the Quinnipiac Bobcats coming up and charging. A shot up quickly by number 6, Charles Alexis Legault, is sent out of play, and we'll have another face-off in the Michigan zone.
And Seamus Casey, a Fort Myers, Florida native, showing that Florida does produce some incredible hockey talent. And really the only bright spot, aside from, of course, Eric Portillo, who is getting absolutely hung out to dry by his defense.
And Casey, one of 2 Florida natives on this team. Gavin Brindley, another freshman from Estero, Florida. Fantilli, a shot is blocked by Legault. Off the rebound, it stays with Pearson on the right side. D-to-D up to Hughes. Hughes charges in the lane. Back across the boards to Pearson. Now left side, McGroarty through the legs of Peretz, and off the rebound, it's gathered by the Bobcats. That puck had a chance on the fast break. It's the Bobcats sending one in close to the net. Behind the net now is Hughes. Gets up right side Brindley, and Brindley just throws it back up into the Bobcat zone. Michigan gets a line change and now a whistle and offsides on the Bobcats.
Jaden Lee and C.J. McGee, that second-line defensive pairing for Quinnipiac, with demonstrating some strong passing skills, especially with those dump-ins that Quinnipiac, not a team necessarily known for their speed, is taking advantage of these aerial passes and really slipping by the Wolverines' normally pretty solid defensive core.
It'll be Hughes and Quillen facing off in the Bobcat zone. Hughes wins it for Michigan. Holtz on the right side point. Passes up to Duke, who loses it. And now the Wolverines just dump it back into the Bobcat end and get back on defense. 5:33 remaining in the first period. Wolverines end up back with it. TJ Hughes skating up and is called another offsides, this time on Michigan.
Yeah, talking about those 2 Florida natives, it has been It is the freshmen for the Wolverines have just been some of the strongest players on this team so far. Tonight, it is not the case, though. It has been Eric Portillo. 5 minutes, 28 seconds remaining here in this first period of hockey. It's 2-1 for the Bobcats. Wolverines down only by 1 goal, but it's starting to feel like it could be a couple more were it not for Eric Portillo's standing on his head. Something's got to change at the end of this period.
And 11 shots already for the Bobcats, not what Michigan wants. Off the face-off, the Bobcats get it close to the net after winning it. Eventually losing it is Christophe Tellier to Mark Estapa. And another offside is called on Michigan. They just can't buy an extended offensive possession in Quinnipiac's zone. Nordqvist that time closest to the puck for the Bobcats. And we'll have yet another face-off in the neutral zone after the third offsides call in about 3 minutes.
And a player that I want to highlight tonight, he already has gotten a lot of attention, but I think he deserves even more, is Ethan DeYoung. He currently stands at 182 career games in his NCAA career, tied with Larry Olim of Minnesota for the most games for a single team in NCAA history. If they win tonight, he will hold the record.
And he holds the record for the most points, goals, and assists of any player in this tournament just based off his longevity in college hockey. Now Seamus Casey comes away with it. A nice move, but he slips. He had a shot. If he just stayed on his feet, no penalty, or no, will be a delayed penalty for tripping on the Bobcats. So Michigan pulls Portillo. They go 6-on-5. Keeping it in the offensive zone. Luke Hughes skating around, just trying to keep possession. Michigan wants a good shot. Fantilli right side on the circle. His shot is gloved by Peretz easily, but Michigan will have power play with 4:34 remaining in the first period.
And so far this season, the Wolverines are 40 for 162 on the power play. That's a 24.7% success rate here. And we're going to see who's headed to the box now for Quinnipiac, and that's going to be...
it's tripping. He hasn't headed over yet. I think they're going to try and grab him, whoever it was.
And it looked like head coach Brandon Naruto hesitated for a second to call Eric Portillo. They weren't exactly sure, as we didn't see a ref's hand go up immediately. But Seamus Casey really keeping his head in the game, knowing that there might not be a penalty, and keeping onto the puck after falling in between the two circles. And so now, with about 4 minutes and 34 seconds remaining here in this first period of hockey, the Frozen Four live from Amalie Arena. The Wolverines are down 2-1 against the Bobcats from Quinnipiac. However, they're headed to the power play now. And so, as we know, the Wolverines have a great power play this year. Their leading scorer on the power play, Adam Fantilli, in 35 games, 19 points with 10 goals. There's no other player on the Wolverines reaching double digits in power play scoring this season, at least for the goals record. The second highest scoring players are a tie at 6 apiece between Mackie Samoskevich and Rutger McGroarty. And we'll see those two players out there, joined by Adam Fantilli, likely Luke Hughes, and maybe TJ or Gavin Brindley out there for this first power play for the Wolverines.
And Michigan needs that line to produce. Down 2-1, 4:34 remaining in the first period. They desperately need some juice, as Quinnipiac has largely outplayed them so far in this game. I think it's fair to say they played with more energy. They haven't made the sloppy mistakes, and that's why they've won 32 games. You can't come into this game underrating the Bobcats. They have just been so devastatingly good throughout their schedule. They've had some minor slip-ups that we'll get into later in this game, but they're a very competent ice hockey team coached by a lifer. Rand Pecknold's been there for 29 years. He is this Quinnipiac program. And in the Bobcat end, it'll be Adam Fantilli facing off on the power play. To the box, it's number 4, Michael Lombardi for the Bobcats. Samoskevich ends up with it after Michigan wins the faceoff. And a bad pass by Fantilli to Hughes is just allowed to skate right by. Hughes has to reset. Forecheck applied by the Bobcats and DeYoung. Hughes skates right by him. Hughes trying to do it himself like Casey did before, and he's bothered and eventually loses the puck. Now off the rebound in front. Hughes had a shot, but It's blocked by Peretz and the Bobcats.
Waking up with about 4 minutes left to go. This Wolverines team, great opportunity to tie up this game.
McGroarty had it for a moment, passed to Samoskevich. His shot went wide left of the net. Michigan resets. 1:20 left on the power play. Samoskevich wheels in, and that puck is not called out of play. It stays in after touching the boards. Hughes to Fantilli on the right side. Fantilli back up to the point to Hughes. Now left side, Brindley, a shot goes wide left. It's picked up behind the net by the Bobcats, fought for by Samoskevich and won by Mackie. Left side, Fantilli back to Brindley. Brindley, his shot is blocked by the Bobcats, who send it back down with 50 seconds left on the power play. Portillo, has to retrieve it from behind his net. Fresh legs for both squads here. Seamus Casey, right side Nazar. Nazar up to Duke, who loses it. Now in the left side corner, Nazar wheels around to find it. Up to Casey on the left side point on the blue line. Inside slot, shot by Duke is blocked. Stays in the zone with Michigan. Casey, left side, shot blocked. Comes back to Casey off the rebound. He rips one, and it's off the stick of Peretz. And now the Wolverines applying a lot of pressure. 15 seconds left on the power play. Casey, one of the last shots for Michigan, with the upper hand. Nazar tries to dump it off inside to Duke. Lets it go by him. TJ Hughes can't corral it and keep it in the zone. And the Bobcats have successfully killed off a penalty. They return to full strength with 2:30 remaining in the first period. Edwards drops off to Hughes. TJ Hughes, that is. Dumps it in. Bobcats pick it up. Has 15, Jaden Lee, the defenseman for the Bobcats, setting up the offense. Up ice goes Quillen, who's already scored 2 goals in this game. Bothered by Nazar, loses the puck, ends up with Jake Kiernan. Now left side Edwards, dumps one in, goes all the way across behind the net, ends up left to right, comes to Hallam, fighting for it along the boards. On the right side is Jackson Hallam, the freshman. Jacob Quillen gathers it and tries to lift a pass to a teammate, but it's swatted away by Jake Kiernan. And Quinnipiac, after receiving that batted puck, dumps it back in for an icing, and we'll get a break with 1:47 remaining in the first period.
And that Wolverines power play, although unsuccessful, ranks 7th in the NCAA this season. The penalty kill for Quinnipiac, 56th at 86%. However, one department that Quinnipiac is running away with is their second overall 57.2% face-off percentage.
Sloppy pass from Pearson intended for Adam Fantilli. It was just a dump-off, is lost, but Michigan comes away with it. I think they'll have to reset to avoid an offsides. Legault had it for Quinnipiac. Gets it up the right side boards, where it's fought for by a few players before ending up with Rucker McGroarty, who loses it. Now Friedman bats it into the center of the slot in the Wolverine end, picked up by Luke Hughes. Across center ice goes Hughes, the sophomore defenseman. Passes one back, gains it once again, and a shot in front of the net by Fantilli is blocked. And Adam Fantilli has largely been neutralized in this game by the Bobcats. A minute left in the first period. Samoskevich on for the Wolverines now. Crosses center ice, left side. Casey back to Samoskevich in the middle. Loses the puck to Young, trying to dig it out. Nick Granowitz fighting for it, and it's eventually won by the Bobcats. Down the ice is Bergart. Loses it, and retrieving it is Ethan Edwards behind the net. Edwards skates from left to right. Now ends up with Granowitz across center ice. Left side pass to Duke is batted around. Granowitz now working behind the net, trying to retrieve that puck for Michigan. Jake Johnson, the defenseman for Quinnipiac, has it now, skating up ice. Dumps it off. Behind the net once again. It's just a series of run-em-around plays for both of these teams. Neither can sustain an offensive possession. 10 seconds left in the first period. Quinnipiac has one last chance for a shot. Inside a dump-off is batted by Casey, and the Wolverines just lost track of the puck, and off a rebound, another shot for Quinnipiac goes by Portillo, but nothing comes of it. It stays 2-1 after the end of the first. Michigan, a sloppy first period, lucky to be only down 1.
Yes, and while the momentum definitely was with the Bobcats for most of this period, I would say the offense really started to wake up here in the second half of this first period, and I think the Wolverines are coming in feeling a little bit more relieved than they were even when they were tied at 1-1. And so now with this first break, this first period, the shots here, folks, according to the score bug, Wolverines 8 shots, Quinnipiac 9.
And they knocked that down. It was 11 just a moment ago, but they must have changed some of the wider shots to not shots on goal because they wouldn't be credited as saves. But it's been the Bobcats have had pressure. Really, a lot of those Michigan shots came when they were on the power play. And that's been the only really sustained offensive possession they've had. The Bobcats have done a great job shutting down Adam Fantilli, who's the heart and soul of this Michigan team. There's no other way to put it. He's the best, most talented collegiate hockey player in the country right now.
Absolutely.
And second only in this upcoming NHL entry draft to Connor Bedard. But Michigan's just got to wake up, really. They woke up a bit towards the end of that first period, and now Brandon Naurato, the no longer interim head coach, is going to go to the locker room and tell his guys, listen, this is it. If you lose this game, your season's done. It's been that way for the past few games, but this one really means it. If you lose this game, you lose out on the opportunity to play for the national title on Saturday. And it's another early exit for Michigan. They haven't won the national championship since 1998, and they've had just numerous chances to do it. They've appeared in the 2001, 2002, 2003, 2008, 2011, 2018, and 2022 Frozen Fours. That is 7 of them, and this would be an 8th, but they have not been able to secure their 10th national title in 25 years. They've kind of developed a reputation for choking in the big moment. They lost in overtime last season, and now they have an opportunity to rewrite that narrative. They just haven't really done it. They haven't played competently.
That is a familiar narrative for University of Michigan sports, something that the basketball team has become associated with. And while this may be a couple years out, that can hurt recruiting, as the Wolverines are blessed with absolute just incredible amount of future NHL All-Star talents. It is important that they write their associations with choking, especially in these big games. And so not always used to seeing the Wolverines down at the end of the first. But they are a very high-scoring team and a team that has gone through some adversity this season. Certainly a lot more adversity than Quinnipiac has this season. So something I wanted to talk about with you, William, is Quinnipiac's quote-unquote weak schedule, which is, as you can see here, they ain't played nobody. The last time Quinnipiac played Colgate was March 17th, 2023.
And that was the ECAC conference final. They ended up losing that game. It didn't win their conference. That's why Colgate wound up playing Michigan a week later and lost 11-1.
Yeah.
And this is the last time these two teams had a shared opponent. They've played a couple other shared opponents this season, but this is the most recent instance. Michigan put a hurting on Colgate. That's the most goals scored in an NCAA tournament game since 1961, the most by Michigan in an NCAA tournament game since 1953. Obviously, that's a huge discrepancy in points, and you see that strength of schedule for Quinnipiac, 42-2, number 2 in the country for Michigan. That speaks to the Big Ten and their caliber play. And Michigan's non-con was tough, too. They played BU, they played Harvard this season in the non-conference.
They played Minnesota and beat them in order to win the Big Ten championship title this season, which was an upset. That was not something that the Wolverines were expected to do, even with the dearth of talent, as you recognize. And so one of those players from Minnesota who helped bring their team here to the finals on Saturday is Logan Cooley. They're actually showing a video about him here on the scoreboard at Amalie Arena, and that is a player that the Wolverines would love to have a rematch against. And I think if you're Minnesota right now, you're maybe thinking, maybe we shouldn't have just been wanting to play against Quinnipiac, who is leading against the Wolverines 2-1 so far. Something that not a lot of people were expecting, despite Quinnipiac's rather incredible run of play this season.
And the Bobcats are just executing flat out. We talked about it in the open, how their experience hasn't gotten them as far as their fans would have liked in their various NCAA tournament appearances. They've made 8 of the last 10 NCAA hockey tournaments, but they haven't like we've said, won it all. This is a great chance, beating a team much more talented than them, but just has played sloppy. And this is so frustrating for Wolverines fans because, I mean, for the most part, you feel like you've gotten over this stretch of lackadaisical play. There were different points in the season where it reared its head.
Yeah.
But it was gotten under control, and on this 6-game winning streak, they have played dominantly. They won, like we said, 4-3 in Mariucci against Minnesota in the Big Ten title. They won in overtime against Penn State, which is a tough matchup at home. It was essentially a home game in Allentown, where Penn State was the host. They dispatched Colgate 11-1. They've been playing like a juggernaut, but not in this game.
No, not at all. And I think that comes with with the territory of having some of the best players in the world. You can't afford to get sloppy. You can't afford to even go down in a playoff game like this, because historically, the players that have been in those experiences have been the X factors that are bringing those goals in the clutch moments. Now, we know, at least here in the Frozen Four, you're not going to get as many power play opportunities that you normally have been able to capitalize on. And there is going to be a pace and play of game that maybe the Wolverines are not as familiar with in terms of the speed not being in their favor. And so with Quinnipiac, it's been surprising at least for me up here in the broadcast booth, to see how they have dominated. Sure, we knew that they were a possession-based team, but to see how they have dominated the pace of play and the speed of play is something that's been surprising. Adam Fantilli being that X factor, Luke Hughes being that X factor, those two players have been missing and silent from this first period. And I wouldn't even go as far to say that they have been shut down by particular players on Quinnipiac. It has not been a case of, oh, look at this matchup. Skylar Brindamore and Ethan DeYoung have been absolutely shutting down Luke Hughes and Adam Fantilli. I think Adam Fantilli and Luke Hughes are still adjusting to this team that they don't really know too well. And whereas Casey and some of the other maybe lesser known, less talented per se, or maybe differently talented to be more accurate, players are more used to kind of playing up against talents better than they are. With Fantilli and Hughes, usually they're used to playing down, and so in this case, I think it is a surprise for this team, and I think being down 2-1 is a wake-up call that they need to have, and Coach Naruto is going to definitely be telling them that it's time to wake up, because Portillo is the only player keeping you in this game, and he is not going to be back next season.
So we'll switch gears from the deficit that Michigan is facing with about 8 minutes left in this intermission. They're playing hockey here in Tampa, Florida, and we got down off this airplane today. We flew into Orlando and actually took a train to Tampa. And that hot Florida air, that first moment you step out of the airport, just the humidity hits you in the face. We had to switch out. Well, I was wearing a normal dress shirt. I switched to linen because we're having a little fun here in the box today. I'm wearing a floral pattern linen shirt.
We are.
David's got his own that he wore on the plane. But let's talk about Tampa for a minute. We're excited. We're here all weekend, win or lose, whether or not Michigan makes it to the title game. So we're going to do some exploring of the city that neither of us have ever been to. Obviously, we know all about the Lightning. You see a picture on your screen, of Steven Stamkos hoisting the Stanley Cup. I'm not sure what year that was because they've had a couple titles.
Probably was 2021 because 2020 was their bubble championship.
Yeah, so that makes sense. And then Ybor City is a cool little neighborhood that where we're staying, it's located right there. They specialize in cigars and Cubanos, so it's a very exciting environment. We were told by the Uber driver on the way here that if we didn't want a super crazy night, we go tonight. If we want super crazy, we go tomorrow night or Saturday night. And, David, you were saying it would make up for not being at Rick's in Ann Arbor tonight.
Yeah, shout out to all those seniors, some of who are listening tonight. The rest of you, stay in line because there's another YouTube live stream that I am familiar with that is broadcasting the Rick's line. So keep an eye on that. But back on the Ybor City, our substitute Rick's tonight, there's a story about the Cubano sandwich I want to talk about. I'm a big fan of food, and I had the luck to have a Cubano sandwich, an authentic one in Miami, Florida last year for spring break. And so there's a debate. And whether or not Tampa is the true birthplace of the Cubano sandwich is a mystery that will, for the most part, likely remain unanswered. However, despite this uncertainty, the city back in 2011-2012 has laid claim as the sole origin point for this Caribbean culinary masterpiece, and as a result started a friendly rivalry with its more famous neighbor to the south, Miami, who I'm sure most of you associate with that Cubano sandwich. So regardless of where this pickle and pork-laden Sammy first serviced, Tampa's own Ybor City, which is a vibrant community of Cuban, Italian, and Spanish immigrants that was founded in the early 1900s, it is known for some of the best Cubanos in the country. And so we're lucky enough to be staying pretty close to Ybor City, and that's a part of town I'm really looking forward to checking out. As you can see here on your screen, there's definitely a Spanish, Cuban, Italian influence. And combined with a wonderful tropical atmosphere, has made for a good reason to wear these linen shirts, because it is hot as the devil outside, folks, and we're lucky enough that we did not have to walk all the way.
And we're trying to stow
with
away.
Our big old suitcase.
We're trying to stow away with the Michigan Daily to access the rooftop pool later this weekend. That's what we're really aiming for. But we're having some fun here in Tampa, no matter if the Wolverines damper our fun, which in all sports they've kind of been liable to do this year.
Yes, I have faith.
You hate
faith
to say
here
it,
at WCBN.
But down 2-1 against a team that really likes to dig in when they get you down, the Quinnipiac Bobcats. Michigan's got their work cut out for them. About 4 minutes left in intermission. We thank you for joining us here on WCBN Sports on YouTube. We hope that Michigan does pull out this game so that Saturday we can put the national championship broadcast on 88.3 WCBN FM Ann Arbor. It's not often that we have the opportunity to broadcast these live games over the air where we go to school. They're often on YouTube, but that'll be the chance we have if Michigan can make it and pull out this game, which they've pulled out of holes. They did that against Penn State, winning that game in overtime after going down 1-0. Tying it up towards the end of the third period and then winning in overtime.
There's a hole there too.
They've gotten used to that after an earlier part of the season where they were just used to being dominant. They've been scrappy. There's been several different versions of this Michigan team this season, I think. Sloppy ones, dominant ones, ones that are ready to punch you in the teeth once you kick them down once. So it'll be interesting to see which one we see.
And, I'd like to see that come out of Fantilli. He gets enough attention as is, but I think it's deserved, right? He is the consensus number 2 overall pick behind Connor Bedard. And if you haven't heard of Connor Bedard, he's a combo of Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, and he's going to be as good as one of those three players.
He scores about 2 points a game in juniors right now.
Yeah, and so Adam Fantilli, he's not Bedard, that's for sure. And I think the thing that separates him the most is that he's kind of a jerk, and he'll get in your face. And he's the kind of player that is he's a classic hockey player, if there is such. He's a Matthew Tkachuk, maybe a little bit taller, a little bit more ornery, and with slightly better hands, I would bargain. And so he's a player that, for whoever is lucky enough to have on their team, would probably be ready to come and play for them, just like Matty Beniers and Ken Johnson. But I think he probably is a closer profile to Matty Beniers, as Fantilli's a two-way player. He's not just a glass cannon like some of the other forwards, especially those freshmen on his second line, Rutger McGroarty and Gavin Brindley, but he is a prominent focal point of the penalty kill. The Wolverines rank 47th in the nation with a 77% penalty kill. And he also is a part of their power play as well. So we will see what happens next in this upcoming second period for hockey. For those of you just joining us tonight, the game is the Quinnipiac Bobcats versus the University of Michigan Wolverines. The score is 2-1. The Bobcats leading in that department. But there's a lot of hockey left so far, 2 whole periods at least, should we be going to extra time, which the Wolverines have had a habit of in the past couple of games.
They had a stretch of 5 out of 6 going to overtime. They went into that overtime game against Penn State. You want fresh legs, though. You don't want to go to overtime in this game. If you're going to face off to play Minnesota, you do not want to tire these players out if you're Brandon Naurato. So we're about ready to get going on this second period with Michigan down 2-1, as David said. Thank you for joining us here on WCBN Sports on YouTube. We love to give you live ad-free coverage of Michigan athletics from a student's perspective. And we both are students, thanking our lucky stars that we ended up here in Tampa, Florida tonight for some brilliant hockey being played here at Amalie Arena in Tampa Bay, Florida.
I'll give you a couple more stats before we get started. In overtime games, the Wolverines are 5-3-3, so 5-3. In games where the opponent scores first, the Wolverines have never tied. They've won 8 games. And get ready for it, folks. They've lost 6. So the Wolverines have a winning record when opponents score first.
But they got about a 50-50 shot in this game.
About a 50-50 shot. We'll see. But we got 2 more periods. When trailing after 1 period, they're 4-2-1. And when leading after 2 periods, they're really good closers. So the Wolverines can get to this period. They are 22-1, which is that bodes well. So the puck drop now here in the second period, folks. This is WCBN Sports.
Skylar Brindamore wins it for the Bobcats against Adam Fantilli. Desi Burgart gets in front of the net but has a shot blocked, and it is fought for in the corner by Keaton Pearson and 2 other Bobcats along with Rucker McGroarty for Michigan. These 2 teams, the Bobcats wearing their mustard yellow uniforms, the Wolverines wearing their navy blues with May's script and May's numbers. Fight for the puck over the neutral zone is kept by 23, Zach Metza, the captain for Quinnipiac. It's turned over to Rucker McGroarty. Fantilli on the fast break. A shot is wide right. It almost stays in the Michigan zone, but Seamus Casey has it go right by him. It has to be kept by Eric Portillo, who goes very far out of his net into the face-off circle to pass it up ice to Dylan Duke. Duke passes it off to Samoskevich, who dumps it behind the Quinnipiac net, where it's picked up by Peretz. Peretz to a teammate, ends up with Dylan Duke, who sends it along the boards. Now fought for in the near side corner by Samoskevich. Back up to the point to Edwards, who rips one that goes wide. It's Sam Lipkin along the boards for Quinnipiac. Passes right side to C.J. McGee. That was Jake Johnson, who gets it up to Colin Graff, the Union College transfer Hobie Baker finalist, sliding on the ice with T.J. Hughes. I think that puck went out of play and we'll have a whistle. No, maybe it's a penalty. I think. Maybe. We'll see. It is.
And those Hobie Baker finalists.
So T.J. Hughes is going to go to the box for a holding penalty.
That is
along the boards
not
against Graff. I was surprised that they called it. It kind of looked like an incidental check, but they put Hughes in the box for holding in a very inopportune time. 18:31 left in the second period. Michigan down 1, and now they're back on the penalty kill. I think that goal was technically a power play goal by Quinnipiac, but it came towards the end in a scramble.
Yeah. It definitely felt like a power play goal, considering the Wolverines had not been able to make a line change.
And it seemed like they'd just been on their back foot for that entire possession. And now they have to start again. Face off in their own zone. Eric Portillo already made 7 saves today. He's got to make a few more. As the Bobcats and Wolverines face it off, we'll have a reset. Marcus Stappa went too early with his partner, Skylar Brindamore. It's that big forward set for Michigan along with Luke Hughes. So trying to establish some strength on the ice with their big boys are Michigan. And they desperately want to avoid a power play goal by the Bobcats. Graff ends up with it. Right side, pass. Now inside the slot. A shot is off the deflection. Sat on by Portillo.
A diving save.
That was Sam Lipkin, a very talented freshman player. In the slot, shot that one in front of the net off a pass from, it looked like TJ Friedman. That was Ethan DeYoung. And Michigan lucky to come away with a goalie save. Portillo splayed out on the ice. Keeps it in Michigan's end on the face-off, still 2-1.
I noticed Keaton Pearson caught watching the puck, not moving his feet on that play. Something that he's going to need to change.
Off the face-off, Quinnipiac wins. And Michigan's been dominant on the draw so far tonight, but Marcus Stappa loses, and the Wolverines can't clear it. Lipkin to DeYoung. Back to Lipkin, right side. Rips a shot off the leg protector of Portillo. Rebound gathered by Lipkin. Stays with it. Up to the point. Now DeYoung inside the slot, bothered by Nolan Moyle, has to pass it back out to the left side. Now inside DeYoung. Bothered by Nolan Moyle once again. A shot is off the leg of a skater. Stays in the offensive zone for Quinnipiac. The Michigan Wolverines have not been able to clear this puck. Almost get a chance to, but now battle for the puck in front of the net. Estapa has it for a moment, and eventually Jake Kiernan able to send it all the way across the boards behind the net of Peretz with a minute left on the power play, 17:30 left in the second period. 23, Zach Metza, the captain for these Bobcats, brings it across center ice. Now a behind-the-back pass to DeYoung. DeYoung loses it, and Jackson Hallam just swings it back down the ice so the Wolverines can get some fresh legs and reset.
Those freshmen showing signs of defensive responsibility that certainly weren't there in that first period.
Here's Christophe Tellier. Quickly across center ice, poked away. Seamus Casey sends it back down, and the Bobcats will have to reset. And they'll choose to wheel it all the way back into their own zone after thinking about just crossing center ice and going back into the offensive attack. Misplayed pass, kept by Tellier, sends it behind Portillo. Casey and Quillen. Up to the point, it's Lee. Now right side Tellier. Tellier. Right side to 13, Christophe Filion. Tellier and Filion, both from Sherbrooke, Quebec. They grew up together, played for the same junior team, the Muskegon Lumberjacks. Filion shot right in front of Portillo, does a nice job, does Portillo, blocking any hole in the net. He's got that big 6'5" frame, makes the save, and with 6 seconds left on the power play, the Bobcats will have one last shot on the faceoff to try and put one more shot on net with the advantage. It's TJ Friedman lining up against Adam Fantilli.
Yeah, Portillo's been pretty good on those one-on-one scenarios, especially those point-blank scenarios. It's just been on the breakaway, unfortunately, and when the defense breaks down that he hasn't been able to make every single save. But with 12 shots on net for Quinnipiac, Portillo is he's the primary reason the Wolverines aren't losing by a couple more goals.
And Michigan, Brindley chooses to take it all the way around towards the Quinnipiac zone. Michigan back at full strength. Quinnipiac comes away with the puck after a Fantilli turnover, and he has not played well. Joey Cipollone for the Bobcats trying to forward it up the ice. Michael Lombardi, the assistant captain, loses the puck to Rucker McGroarty. McGroarty, the freshman, up to Fantilli. Fantilli, nice deke, and off the post goes Fantilli's shot with 5:45 left in the second period. That's the cleanest look we've seen from Adam so far tonight. And that's the motivation he needs if he's hearing us all the way up in the press box for Michigan fans to get back in this game. Still down 2-1. First opportunity in a while for the Wolverines. And we'll look at the replay. Through the legs of a defender goes the pass from McGroarty. Fantilli just off the top rim of the goal. He thought he had it. And I don't know if they're going to take a look at it. No, they won't. But it was about as close as it gets. Top down. Bar down by Fantilli nearly. He goes to the bench, and a fresh line for the Wolverines. Mackie Samoskevich leads it.
Well, Fantilli's one to take things personally, so if you know anything about Fantilli, wouldn't be surprised to see him starting to get the more shots on net.
And we'll see if it's like a great basketball player only needing a couple free throws to get his shot active. If Fantilli one shot can get him going. The Wolverines desperately need it. Off a rebound, a shot in front of the net by Colin Graff is deflected. Dylan Duke tries to send it to Mackie Samoskevich, but it's turned over and sent back down to Portillo behind his net.
Wolverines showing more displays of control in the neutral zone now.
And they have been playing with more control. Here's Samoskevich dumping in front of the net, nobody home. Dylan Duke on the left side boards trying to chase after it. Ends up with Tellier. Right side Tellier drifting towards the faceoff circle. Inside the slot, pass. Tellier off a rebound has a shot. And off the deflection, it ends up with Mackie Samoskevich. Wolverines trying to clear. Here's an opportunity for Hughes. No penalty called. It looked like he had his stick held, trying to get a shot off. And now a bit of a scrum behind the Quinnipiac net. It is Jackson Hallam facing off against three Bobcats. It's broken up by the referees. 2-1, 14:31 to go in the second period. We reach a media timeout. And these are the situations where we like to thank you for tuning in to WCBN Sports. We are ad-free, so we can stick with you through this commercial break.
Yes, no ads from us. Although I will say, if there's any player that you expected to be talking about all night, and certainly we did our fair share of research, our due diligence, and I'm surprised we haven't gotten to talk about him that much, is Yaniv Peretz. He has done everything he's needed to, but it hasn't been that much. Wolverines don't even have 10 shots yet. They've only got 8 on net. And I guess because you don't count those post shots, ones that hit the post or the crossbar.
And you talk about Peretz. We talked about Portillo all day. We cooked up this little graphic to show the top forwards for Michigan and the top forwards for Quinnipiac, as well as the top goalies for both teams. Graf and Fantilli have been relatively quiet. The scoring for the Bobcats has come from Jacob Quillen. The 1 goal by Seamus Casey is all that Michigan has to show. But these are the arguably the 4 most impactful players on the ice for either of these teams. Yaniv Peretz, just stellar in his play, and obviously some of that has to do with the conference in which he plays. The ECAC is not exactly strong, but he's allowing less than 1.5 goals a game, .932 save percentage in 37 games played. In Portillo's equal 37 games, he's just under 3 goals allowed per game, over a 90% save percentage. That's pretty good for a goalie playing in a strong Big Ten. Colin Graf, the transfer from Union College, 56 points, pretty close to Fantilli's 64, but in a different league like the Big Ten, it's insane that Fantilli has a number like that, 29 goals, 35 assists, 64 points. That's why he is in the Hobie Baker top 3.
And you just wonder how much time it's going to take in this game for him to turn it all on. And I think with Portillo playing better than he has this season on average, there's a good chance that we can see that. The Wolverines just have to keep putting more offensive opportunities on display. And with Luke Hughes, that wrist shot from the point, maybe that is going to happen.
And Hughes off the face-off does send that shot, but it's blocked by the Bobcats. Michigan retains possession, though. Hughes skates over center ice, drops off left side to Ciccolini, who's immediately sent to the boards after a pass along the boards, ends up back with Hughes. Nazar fighting for it along with a couple Bobcats, loses it. Back over center ice, picked up by Seamus Casey. Casey wheeling back across the neutral zone, dumps it off. Nazar up to Edwards. Nazar takes it away after Edwards has it poked away. Sends one in front of the net, is blocked away but kept by Michigan. Wolverines right side, Casey tries to dump it off to Brindley. Brindley off a rebound off an initial shot, just gets deflected right back to him, sends it into the chest of Peretz. And that is the type of opportunities that Michigan needs to generate to just put shots on goal. Something's got to go in at some point. 2-1, 13:37 to go in the second.
Holy cow. And you see that forward group from Michigan staying out there, not a line change coming after this face-off because they're feeling it right now. Something's going to happen. And what a great save, too, by the Bobcats netminder. Point blank, the poise, shoulders back, head up, body widespread and out. That's how you keep your team in the game.
And Michigan does not win the faceoff. We'll see how those tired legs fare as the Bobcats pressure Michigan. Wolverines trying to clear it out of their own end. They'll have to just send it down. A turnover, a pass intended to McGroarty is picked off by Zach Metza. Bobcats trying to just keep it in their possession. Sam Lipkin sends it behind the net, where it is picked up by Michigan and sent across ice into the net of Peretz, where he gloves it, and Michigan will be able to get fresh legs out there. They looked a little tired, David, after they weren't able to keep the face-off in the offensive zone. They had to go back and play defense, but nothing comes of it. Only 1 shot on goal by Quinnipiac.
Yeah, looks like that 4th line is going to be out there. Maybe a combination of a couple lines. Estapa now on the face-off. Granowitz on that far side of the near circle here, and Moyle on the near side with that Jay Kiernan and Stephen Holtz. This is the checking line. This is the shutdown line.
These are the big boys.
Yes.
Head coach Brandon Arado does not want any more goal scoring to be done against his team. He sends out the enforcers.
And they're matched up against that top line for Quinnipiac, including their gem on offense, Colin Graf,
who's been relatively quiet. Holtz backwards to Kiernan. Now Estapa left side, trying to send it up ice. Turns it over. Quillen has 2 goals for the Bobcats today. Tries a left side pass to Michael Lombardi. that is incomplete and bounces along the boards before being sent back down to Portillo's behind the net, where he picks it up, gets it to Holtz. Now Granowitz, as Michigan goes for a line change. Stoppa fighting for it behind the net with a few other players. Skylar Brindamore in there for the Bobcats. It's maintained by Ethan DeYoung. Ethan DeYoung attempts a pass left side, loses it. Kiernan for Michigan picks it up. Pearson for Michigan picks it up. Now Legault in the Bobcat defensive zone. A almost fast break opportunity for Brindamore and DeYoung. Now another shot in front of Portillo after Quinnipiac ends up with the rebound. Dylan Duke just kicks it out of the slot, and Michigan gets away there after a couple rebounds by Quinnipiac was spelling danger for the Wolverines.
Portillo had no stick, and Dylan Duke was the only reason that didn't just become the third goal of the night for the Bobcats. What a great defensive play.
Michigan lucky. 11:28 remaining in the second period. He's Luke Hughes across neutral ice. No teammates with him. He's just gathered by 4 Bobcats and sent away. Big check into the boards by the Wolverines. That was Mackie Samoskevich getting revenge for an earlier check that he got put onto him. But Michigan turns it over. It's Charneski in there for the Bobcats. Loses the puck. It's sent back up by the Wolverines. They can get a line change. Quinnipiac just trying to control it. Michigan trying to get it out of their own end. They can't sustain it for a long period of time. Cherneski in the air checks Casey into the boards, but
Blocked
Michigan keeps it. Edwards up right side, intended for Ciccolini, but it ricochets off the boards into the glove of Pretz, and we'll have another stoppage in play. 10:31 remaining in the second period, still 2-1.
And that was a lucky bounce considering it came from behind the midway line, the red line. That would have been icing. And so the Wolverines are now going to get an probably unexpected, maybe even undeserving chance to put what looks like their top scoring line, that second line.
They got Fantilli out there with McGroarty and Brindley. And Kiernan and Holtz holding up the back line for the Wolverines. So they're ready to keep this puck in the zone and try and get some shots from their top liners.
Yeah, that could be a better combination than what we've seen so far with that normal top defensive pairing with Luke Hughes showing a little bit of sloppiness, especially with his deep dives into the offensive zone.
And we called that Wisconsin second playoff game in the Big Ten tournament, and we saw a lot more of Stephen Holtz and Jay Kiernan than we had throughout the season because they're more stout defensively than those first-line defenders traditionally are for the Wolverines in Pearson and Hughes. Michigan still maintaining possession. Now Luke Hughes is out there. Bothered, works its way into the slot. Right side, Fantilli, and he scores! Adam Fantilli ties it up, and Michigan, 2-2, 9:45 left in the second period, still has life.
And talk about unexpected. I stand corrected, which I'm always happy to stand. A great assist from Luke Hughes. That is called vision. That is the reason he has that, he was drafted so high for his potential. His seeing eye abilities, his pass-making abilities is the cornerstone of his Brent Burns-like game. Some people say he might make a better winger than he does a defenseman. The jury's still out on that. But a pass coming from the near side, blue line, and Adam Fantilli every single time is going to put that in on the one-timer. They practice that again and again and again in practice. And Fantilli has really defined his role not only as a goal scorer but as a leader here for the offense and for bringing this team back to a 2-2 tie here with 9:32 remaining in this second period.
And
what a goal.
I think we see the momentum shifting to the Wolverine side. The crowd's back into it. There is a good bit of maize here at the at Amalie Arena.
Well, if you can tell.
Off the face-off, Michigan wins. And they send one back towards the net of Pretz. And even then, just that juice looked different. We talked about the line that Coach Naurato had out there for the Wolverines in that series of plays, and it set it up. It was an excellent find by Luke Hughes to get Adam Fantilli on the right wing where we've seen him operate all season. And he just puts one in, at the most opportune time for Michigan to tie it up and try to reclaim momentum in this game, where it now seems like the Bobcats have stalled out offensively.
Yeah, and so for Adam Fantilli, that's goal number 30. He has more goals than many NHLers do. That is ridiculous.
As soon as he gets drafted, he'll be in the NHL.
I mean,
there'll be a small AHL stop for him, possibly.
This is Fantilli's 36th career game, I believe, and he has 30 goals in 36 games. Are you kidding me?
And now he's up to 65 points.
Yeah, 65 points.
Which leads the country. I mean, almost everything he does leads the country. He is just an incredible player. And if Michigan ends up winning the national championship this year, it'll be because of him.
Yes.
Without a doubt. He has rescued Michigan from so many games. He's leading the nation in points now by 8. Coming into this, at least. He's 5th in assists at 35 and 2nd in goals now with 30. He's just an incredible player. Michigan's lucky to have him.
So
he's equalized it.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is Fantilli going to win the Hobie Baker?
In my opinion, he should. We will. Now, this is a question I want to pose to our listeners. If we're feeling happy enough tomorrow, if Michigan were to win this game, 6 o'clock, the Hobie Baker Award is being presented right by here. I think it's like the Wharf or something.
Yeah.
They were announcing it. So a question I want to pose is, if we stream that on Twitter, Adam Fantilli being presented with the Hobie Baker, possibly. There are 2 Minnesota players. I want to ask if you all out there would like to see something like that on our Twitter page. But we're back underway. 9:25 left in the second period. Quinnipiac wins the faceoff and lose it automatically into the Michigan zone. It's kept. Now Edwards up ice. Finds a teammate. It's Nazar. Trying to get to Hallam on the left wing. Hallam stops. Wheels around. Back up to the blue line, Hughes. Hughes working across to center. Now to Hallam on the left wing. Back up to Hughes on the point. A one-timer is just howitzered into the net. The ricochet is lost by a couple players. They couldn't keep it in their vision, but we'll see if it stays on Michigan's side. No, it does not. Quinnipiac has a chance to advance their own offense. Michigan caught in a line change. Odd man rush for the Bobcats. They send a shot down to Ethan DeYoung, and it's batted away by Portillo. Now Michigan on the break. Here's Nolan Moyle. Moyle has Jake Johnson off his skates and loses the puck to DeYoung, but it's gloved. Picked up again by Moyle. Now in front of the net to the screener, Granowitz. A stop in there off a ricochet. Still kept by Granowitz, just hanging in front of the net. Edwards sends it back down. Still in front of the net. Granowitz fighting for it with Moyle. Another shot, and it just can't be put in. Fighting for it behind the net is Moyle. And it's eventually taken away by Zach Metza. Oh, my goodness, a big scramble for the puck. Michigan can't win that for themselves. The Bobcats, ecstatic that did not result in a goal. There was about 4 good chances. Ethan Edwards coming back down right side. Samoskevich just come on. Granowitz dumps it off to Duke, and he loses it. A fast break opportunity now for Colin Graff and the Bobcats. Hustling is Luke Hughes. Inside Graff, shot blocked by Portillo. What a save by Eric in net. And on a one-on-one fast break, Colin Graff, the Hobie Baker finalist for these Bobcats, is shut down.
This is the Michigan we know.
They've got the juice following that Fantilli equalizer. 2-2, 7:30 to go. Wolverines trying to dig it out of their own end. Hughes up to Duke. Duke on the left wing. Fires one along the boards. TJ Hughes can't glove it. It's picked up by the Bobcats. Across center ice, it is Fillion that's checked into the ice by a Wolverine. Samoskevich trying to come up with it, poking it away from Cipollone. He does. Now across center ice, it's dumped down by Hughes. Michigan gets some fresh offensive legs out there. Metza back up right side trying to find Cipollone. Ends up behind Portillo's net. He goes right side to Pearson. Up to Brindley. Backwards to Hughes. Now Fantilli across center ice. Fantilli dump off right side. Brindley shot is sat on by Peretz, and Michigan just looks alive now with 6:34 to go in the second period.
You can feel the energy. That is such a radio and just TV trope, to hear all the time. Sometimes you're at home listening or watching and thinking, what does that mean? It means that everyone in the stadium is tuning in and is thinking, okay, now this is what the NCAA, this is what the University of Michigan has advertised their hockey program is. It is a coast-to-coast, all-star lineup of incredibly talented hockey players that are playing together at a level that has not been seen in a very long time, especially for this program. And one more thing before I cut back to you, that is those assists on that Fantilli one-timer. Luke Hughes, of course, but also Rucker McGroarty potting that secondary assist.
Just A1 producers. Now ends up with McGroarty. Back to Brindley left side. Here comes the freshman, Brindley, skating around the back of the net. Wheels right side to Edwards at the point. Edwards, D-to-D pass to Luke Hughes. Hughes trying to keep the puck. Back to McGroarty. Now up to Edwards, back on the right side. Fantilli right wing. Dumps it back behind the net. Brindley tries to fight for it with Desi Burgart. Now in front of the net, McGroarty. His shot goes into the chest of Peretz, and it's Colin Graff off the rebound for Quinnipiac, out and running. Nice defensive play by the Wolverines to poke it away from Skylar Brindamore. They send it back down left side to Rucker McGroarty. McGroarty fighting for it along the boards. It ends up with Adam Fantilli, who sends it out of play with 5:37 to go in the second period.
And now that Fantilli play to keep the puck in the offensive zone is a reason why he's been so highly touted, because of his two-way play. His hockey IQ, his spatial awareness, especially not just in an offensive manner in the offensive zone, but his ability to keep these dead plays alive is something that has really contributed to this team's success and also his individual success as well. Puck drop here coming. 5:37 remaining in this second period of hockey. The score is 2 even, as are the shots, 18 apiece. Bobcats, Wolverines here in Tampa Bay.
And Michigan has done a great job to become a more executing team in this second period to equalize a lot of those metrics like shots and goals, most importantly. Now 2-2. Estapa turns it over. It's a 2-on-2 break, now 3-on-2 for the Bobcats out in front of net. A shot by Metza is blocked and sent back along the left side boards, picked up by Jake Johnson.
Wolverines 8 blocks tonight so far.
They've played great defensively in the second period. Here's Tellier on the right wing. Tellier bothered by Hallam, and Kiernan loses it up along the boards. Moyle attempted to pick it up. Fast break for the Wolverines. Here they come. Pass up to Hallam is knocked away nicely there by Sam Lipkin of the Bobcats. Wolverines maintain possession, and a sloppy attempted pass by Luke Hughes is lost, and Hughes just turns it over in the Michigan zone. A break for the puck. Pearson back to Hughes. Now to Moyle.
That was almost a holding call. Hughes got really lucky that the ref maybe got caught up, almost getting hit by a couple of his teammates there in the far corner.
And outside of that assist, it hasn't been a great game, I'd say, for Luke Hughes. He's made a lot of mistakes, as he has recently. And now it seems that the Bobcats are trying to reestablish their footing after a period of unstable footing after that Fantilli goal. Now 4:27 to go in the second period. They have a face-off in the Wolverine zone. It'll be Estapa taking another face-off. He hasn't been good on the draw so far tonight. Loses it there. And off a rebound on a ripped shot to Portillo. It's gathered by Michael Lombardi in the Quinnipiac zone. Up to TJ Friedman. Friedman behind the net to Portillo. Pressured by a Bobcat. That's Cipollone. Cipollone gets a bad pass out of Portillo. That's fought for along the corner. Friedman, Cipollone, Estapa, along with Keaton Pearson. It ends up with Friedman. Now in front of the net, Lombardi, just a slow sweeping shot, is blocked easily. Off the rebound, it's still out there. Wolverines now could just clear it after Rucker McGroarty comes away with it. Excuse me, that's not McGroarty, that's Samoskevich, who's knocked to the ice. No penalty called. Now Duke left side after Portillo grabbed a hold of it. Samoskevich right wing. Wheels around. Back up to the blue line. Holtz fires one in there. The screener almost did a good job holding the net open for him. Edwards off the rebound, keeps it. He's pressured heavily by Skylar Brindamore,
showing poise.
The reigning ECAC defensive forward of the year. Wolverines work it into the Bobcat zone. Here's Hughes. Backwards to Casey, who loses track of the puck. They won't call an offsides. It stays in the zone. Hughes, right side Samoskevich. Now it's lost. Michigan has to reset. And now they just have done a good job maintaining possessions. Samoskevich up to TJ Hughes. No icing called. Peretz behind the net sends it back to Jaden Lee. Lee sends it upwards, picked off by Stephen Holtz in the neutral zone. He sends it all the way back down. Michigan gets a couple fresh skaters out there.
And that's going to be icing here with 2:42 remaining in that second period. The Bobcats out shooting the Wolverines just by one, 19-18. Goals are 2 apiece. Have not seen the netminder for the Bobcats come out of his net too much and handle that puck. Yaniv Peretz compared to the Wolverines netminder, of course, Eric Portillo, who at least in the first period was very active outside of his crease. And so with not a lot of time remaining, it's a choice for these two teams. Play conservatively, go into the break with the tie, or try and get another goal and really put a damper on the momentum of the other team.
Fantilli wins the faceoff, sends it back out to Hughes. A shot goes wide right, and it looks like we're going to have a penalty on Quinnipiac. I think that is number 12, Jacob Nordqvist, that will go to the box. We'll see the call.
And if you were the Wolverines, this is a best-case scenario.
And it is a trip on Nordqvist. We'll watch the replay again, and he did just kind of send McGroarty onto the ice, shoved him in the back, tripped him, all manner of things, and he'll go to the box for 2 minutes. Michigan will have another chance to try and capitalize on a power play, this time instead to tie it, to take the lead.
Yeah, and so, again, the Wolverines' power play, known this season, 7th in the nation. The kill for Quinnipiac, 56th. Both teams with 1 power play apiece tonight so far. Nothing coming of it. This is now the Wolverines' second chance. Actually, excuse me. There have been 2 power plays apiece for both of these. Teams. The Wolverines now getting a chance at trying to get another Gino here. Not a lot of time left. And so something that I want to talk about during this little break while they're cleaning the ice is something that we haven't really gotten that much time to talk about, just with the high-octane offense from both of these teams tonight. Just all the movement, the speed, the pace of play has been incredible and has come as to be what most of the audience has expected from both of these teams. First period was a little slow, you could say, at least for the Wolverines. But this period, Eric Portillo, not the best season, right? If we're looking at the stats, 909 save percentage, 25-10-2, 297 goals against average. His career is a 918, which is pretty good. But tonight, he has come in clutch tonight, saving 17 for 19 of the shots so far tonight. Probably going to be a couple more, and really coming and showing that this game matters to him. This game matters to him because this is probably his last at the University of Michigan. Sure, Fantilli's probably going to the NHL for sure. There's a lot of freshmen that are probably going to be staying, but for Eric Portillo, who's coming out party last season as the Wolverines' lead netminder and offering more stability for a program that has seen kind of a complicated relationship with netminders, this is important for him, and he's an LA Kings prospect now. He's
been shut down since the first intermission. We're back underway here after the media timeout. 2.5 to go in the second period. Wolverines on the power play. 1:45 to go on that. McGroarty wheels around after Michigan retrieves from their own end. Brindley right side. Fantilli tries a 2-man game with Brindley. It's just barely kept in by Luke Hughes. Keeps it to Fantilli. Fantilli fighting for it. It's gloved. A bit too long. No whistle blown. Brindley fighting for it along the right side. Quinnipiac almost had a chance for a shorthanded opportunity, but it's slowed down by Michigan. Bit of a forecheck by TJ Friedman. He backs off after Luke Hughes skates away. Hughes, backwards pass to McGroarty. McGroarty trying to find anyone as the Wolverines trickle into the offensive zone. Brindley at the point, drops it off to Hughes. Hughes, right wing Fantilli, back up to Hughes at the point. Hughes just skating along the blue line. Fantilli inside after a Samoskevich pass, Fantilli off a Brindley rebound a shot. And Michigan had 3 consecutive opportunities there. 1:20 left in the second period, 45 on the power play. It was Samoskevich to Fantilli, a shot, a rebound, shot by McGroarty, another rebound, shot by Brindley, eventually cleared by the Bobcats. 1:05 to go in the period, 30 seconds left on the power play. New skaters on for the Wolverines. Hughes to Nazar. Nazar knocks it out of play.
And that's your probable Mike Richter Award for Goalie of the Year right there. Your probable winner, Yaniv Peretz, with a display of dominance here in his net after a pretty porous penalty kill defense left them risking letting in another goal just here as this second period comes to an end. And so in one of the winningest seasons that the Bobcats have had in program history, winning 32 games overall, it's been Yaniv Peretz who has been largely responsible for their storied success. We'll see how he fares with about 55 seconds remaining in this second period.
He's been incredible. 20 seconds left on the power play. Bobcats win the faceoff. They send it back down ice. Portillo lays it off for his defender, Casey. Casey comes and grabs it, skates slowly across center ice. Under control goes Casey. We saw a goal that he took himself earlier in the game. Now he gets it all the way to the net of Peretz, and it's gloved by the netminder, and a little scrum behind the net now with Casey and a few other Bobcats. Now getting involved is Duke.
He made that zone entry look easy. You see Casey splitting the defense, showing his hand-eye coordination, his puck skills, as well as his offensive awareness too. I think that's something that the Wolverines defense, there's so much talk about how Luke Hughes is the offensive presence on their back end, but when he eventually leaves to go to New Jersey, maybe next year to their minor league team, it's going to be Seamus Casey who's going to be
and part of those
leading that offensive presence on the back end.
That trio of Michigan Devils, a stop on the faceoff, loses it once again. He has not been good on the draw so far today. I've said it a lot. Penalty kill over for the Bobcats, but they send it down for an icing, so it'll go back to their zone. 29.4 to go in the second period. That has largely been dominated by the Wolverines. They have a 1-0 lead in the period. 2-2 overall after a tough first period where they came out lackadaisical and slow. It looks like they've now shaken that rust off that seemed to have plagued them after 2 weeks off, but you have to think Quinnipiac also had 2 weeks off following the regional win. Just Michigan coming out slow. They're lucky to be tied. 29.4 to go in the second period. Fantilli takes the draw in the offensive zone. Ends up back to Hughes on the point. Hughes skates in left side, stops. He's just got to pass that out. He isn't able to, and he leaves it in the corner on the boards where it is won by the Bobcats. Number 3, Jake Johnson, their defender. Sent back down to Michigan's side. Seamus Casey has to retrieve. Bothered behind the net. Right side, Fantilli. His pass ricochets off the boards, almost kept by the Bobcats. Ends up all the way back down the ice, and that will do it for the second period. Some activity in that corner where the puck ended up after time had expired. But that'll do it. 2-2, Michigan. After entering this period down 1, they tie it up. And they've looked better. They've looked more active. They've looked less sloppy. Better on defense. Solid on offense. But they're missing that extra spark that we've seen from them all year that's going to lift them to it in this game.
So as we're here for this second intermission of this hockey game, there's a couple of people on the Quinnipiac organization that I'd like to highlight. And so first among them, head coach Rand Pecknold. All right, there's a comparison I'm going to make. For folks familiar with college basketball, Gonzaga, there are a lot of parallels. In fact, athletic director at Quinnipiac, Greg Amodio, compared the Bobcats to the Gonzaga basketball team. So you can see the parallels between Coach Pecknold and head coach at the Gonzaga's basketball program, Mark Few. So these two gentlemen have been coaching their respective teams since the late 1990s. They brought unprecedented success to their programs. The one thing missing from both of these these 30 years of storybook success in the tournaments is the ring. However, I think this year was maybe the year that brought head coach Rand Pecknold to the national conversation. Not only has he been first in pretty much every single category in ECAC, so 30 wins, 3 losses, and 3 ties, 144 goals scored, first as well, a .58 face-off percentage, and 35 team power play goals, also first in the ECAC. He's also the 2023 Coach of the Year, the 2023 Tim Taylor Coach of the Year in ECAC, and, of course, was the head coach of the Team USA World Junior Championship in 2022 of the United States team. And so a couple notables that he coached, Rucker McGroarty, Gavin Brindley, Mackie Samoskevich, Luke Hughes. He is familiar with this roster in a way that most NCAA coaches are not, especially these two teams that do not normally play each other during the regular season. And so I think Coach Pecknold has brought a lot of success to this team, and it's been interesting to see how this has been really his only, the only team of his adult career for the most part, coming in the 1990s, age 27, and quoted saying, on changing jobs at least, quoted saying, quote, "I've considered other jobs, but my wife and I love where we live, and our 4 kids, ages 9, 14, 16, and 17, are settled." And I think it's easy to say he's feeling pretty settled with the success that he has had in Connecticut. A Connecticut connection, interestingly enough, on the Wolverines is Mackie Samoskevich. And now William and I have talked about Mackie Samoskevich. He's probably my favorite player on this Wolverines roster, not only because he kind of goes under the radar, especially with those top-line talents like Adam Fantilli, Luke Hughes, those very well-known household names, but also because of his two-way play and also the way that he has kind of gone under the radar these past few years. He's only a sophomore, but in 78 career games, Mackie Samoskevich, 30 goals, 42 assists, and 72 points. I mean, talk about an underrated player who has produced his entire, albeit short, college hockey career, but is a player that arguably is a lot more NHL ready than some of the other draft picks or players that have already been picked, such as Ethan Edwards or Seamus Casey or Frank Nazar, or I wouldn't say Eric Ciccolini, maybe Dylan Duke, but Mackie Samoskevich, you can rely on him at any point in the game. He's a clutch game winner. He's consistently bring the Wolverines into victory, especially with his late game heroics. But he's also going to be successful on the power play and responsible in the neutral zone, which is something that the Wolverines demonstrated they were able to do, which is something in this second period, which they struggled with in their first period. And so the point getters for the Wolverines here in this second period, of course, Adam Fantilli. You can't forget the gemstone of this hockey team. But Luke Hughes as well, and Rucker McGroarty assisting on that. And Luke Hughes, I think he's kind of had a bit of a inconsistent game so far. The first period was a bit of a mess for the Wolverines as a whole. Eric Portillo standing on his head, really ensuring the Wolverines were going to stay in this game, because if he had not been there to make those point-blank saves without his stick, with no defensive presence in his back end, then the Wolverines would be in a hole that I'm not entirely sure they could come out of. And so the Wolverines' biggest deficit that they've been able to claw out of this season was a 3-0 hole against Penn State. And so some more stats for you folks, looking now what to expect, at least for the Wolverines, when tied after 2 periods. Hasn't happened a lot for them this season. At least in the 5 games that they've been tied after 2 periods, they've won 2 of them and they lost 2 of them, and then they tied the last one. But that is not going to happen here in the Frozen Four, so it's a coin toss. Can the Wolverines win after being tied after 2. Given how their momentum has carried them, I'd say it's anybody's guess, but if you're a bettor, the Wolverines are doing pretty good so far.
And I am back. Just had a quick little break at the little boys' room. Happens to everybody, especially when no commercials are allowed here on WCBN Sports. I'd say, Michigan really took a lot of the momentum away from the Bobcats in the second period, and they just, I think, played better. You saw a lot of Michigan's really skilled players being able to get through the Bobcat defense easily. It's just a matter of finishing those plays, and that's just hockey. You're only going to end up with 3 or 4 goals a game. That's the way it goes. But I really liked how Michigan was able to accomplish those things in that second period. And now we talk about if they're able to pull this game out. The previous game that went final today was Minnesota and Boston University. Minnesota wins that game 6-2. 2 empty netters towards the end makes that score a bit more lopsided than it was, but it doesn't take away from the fact that Minnesota is arguably more talented than Michigan, even though that Michigan has in recent times, I think they've won their last 2 against the Golden Gophers, one in the Big Ten Championship and splitting one series in Minneapolis in January. We talked about it in the Open, but if any team set up to challenge Minnesota, it is Michigan. But if Quinnipiac wins this game, they've earned a spot in the national title game. It just remains to be seen if they get blown out or if they compete like they have with the Wolverines. But David, what do you think about the breakdown of this bracket? I think a lot of Wolverines fans were hoping for BU. It's a little bit more of a talent benefit for the Wolverines if they were to face off against Boston, and especially if they were to face off against Minnesota for the 6th time this year. That's a lot of times that these two teams would have played each other, but if Michigan wins, that's who they got to play.
Yeah, well, the Wolverines were happy with this Quinnipiac matchup last week when it came out because of this, for the same reasons as what you just said, for the hope for BU, right? The talent matchup would be in the Wolverines' favor. But look how this game is turning out. The shots are pretty much even. The goals are literally even. And the game, for the most part, has been even. For all the naysayers of Quinnipiac and the claims and the accuracy that their schedule has been far easier than the Wolverines, I don't think it matters anymore. They are playing up. They deserve to be in this game. There's no room for debate that Colin Graff or Yaniv Peretz had such success because of their success is not a fluke. This team's success is not a fluke. Neither is Michigan's, but I think there were a lot more questions about the Bobcats. What do you think about Minnesota? This is a team the Wolverines intimately know.
Well,
and the audience intimately knows as well.
If there's anyone that's going to take away Michigan's shot at the Hobie Baker Awards, it's 2 Minnesota players, Matthew Nyes and Logan Cooley. And I was listening when I was on my trip to the bathroom. They had the radio in there, and it was head coach Bob Motzko of the Golden Gophers saying that if it was his vote, he'd give it to both of his players.
Okay.
He said without either one of them, they're not in the place they are today, which is arguably true, but you can only give it to one, and I'd say it's Logan Cooley that's more deserving.
I agree.
I would say Fantilli deserves it the most. In that system that Minnesota plays, they have so many great players, but Fantilli is, I think, the singular one. If there was one guy you could build, it's Fantilli, and that's why he's going to be the 2nd overall pick in the NHL draft, because he's that guy.
Yeah.
I think Minnesota, if they were, at the same level as I don't know, Penn State or Ohio State, maybe those players are ranked a little bit less individually. But it's a complete team, and it'll be tough to beat them for the 3rd straight time. That's what it would have to be for Michigan to walk away with the national title. But if they win this game against the Bobcats, that's 7 straight. If they win the game against Minnesota, that's 8 straight, which would be their longest in this season, which that's the way you got to earn it.
Yeah, no, and it would be a storybook ending for this team that has just dominated for the most part. I think the Wolverines will benefit not to jump to any conclusions, right? The Wolverines find themselves playing against Minnesota on Saturday. They will benefit from the intensity of those matchups this season, and I think we might see an even higher level of Adam Fantilli's game, an even higher level of Eric Portillo's game like we're seeing tonight, and an elevation of the entire roster to meet that challenge. Now, sure, you could say that about any team, but being this big, being a potential Big Ten matchup, that matters. That matters to the recognition that the Big Ten deserves for being among the best conferences for men's college hockey, and to kind of recenter finally for these the top 4 North American sports, the bounty of talent that the Midwest has to offer, and I think that goes overlooked by the play from teams on both coasts and in the South. And so here with 3:40 remaining in this second period intermission, for those just coming back to the broadcast, the score is 2-2. The Bobcats and the Wolverines are tied. The shots, 20-18. Wolverines leading in that department. You know whose name we have not mentioned once since like the first 5 minutes of the first period?
Who's that, David?
Can you guess? Skylar Brindamore.
He hasn't really done much on offense. I think he's made a few defensive stops for the Bobcats, but their offense has slowed down.
Yeah.
Michigan's done a good job putting those big bodies out there. We saw those big body lines of Kiernan and Holtz, and then with Granowitz, Estapa, and Moyle for a lot of ice time, which is something they did against Wisconsin when they were giving up goals hand over fist.
Certainly.
They put in those big guys to stop the bleeding, and they're a positive force. I mean, I don't know what it is. They're just grinders. It's a hockey term. They're just grinders out there.
And if you know, you know.
And they're the boys. I mean, Granowitz is from Macomb. Estapa's from St. Clair. Moyle's a captain, a fifth-year guy.
Kiernan from
Brighton,
Michigan.
And Holtz is from White Lake.
These are local dudes.
Moyle's from New York, but, he's been here for long enough that he's essentially a Michigander, and that's what you hope for. Your local guys come through, and this is a team with a lot of local guys. Michigan is a hockey state, as much as they say Minnesota's a state of hockey.
I was just about to say that.
I mean, the Hughes are from Canton. Rucker McGroarty is from Northville. He's like born in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Larkin.
Wierenski from my hometown of Grosse Pointe. Larkin from Canton area. Michigan's got some great hockey players that they pump up, but then they pick up the other supplemental pieces from Canada, Ethan Edwards and Fantilli, of course. TJ Hughes, Mackie Samoskevich from the East Coast. A lot of his guys that he probably knows are on Quinnipiac, with Samoskevich being from Sandy Hook, Connecticut.
So I want to know, with a couple seconds remaining, are any of these 4 players your stars tonight? With 1 period remaining, if you had to choose from these 4,
with 1 period remaining,
or would you not?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's got to be Fantilli because he gave the Wolverines that momentum, big time, scoring that goal to equalize the game, tied up at 2-2, and the Wolverines kind of carried that throughout the rest of the period. And Wolverines fans would hope that they would carry that into this third period that is pretty much winner take all. You go to the national title game, you live to play another day, and you live to play in that last game of the season no matter what. But you don't want to go home tonight, and especially if the stakes would be high for the Hobey Baker presentation ceremony tomorrow at 6 if both of those teams, Michigan and Minnesota, their players that were representatives of the Hobey Baker nominees, we're in the title game on Saturday.
I agree.
That'd be a big deal. So Michigan's got a chance to close this out. It took overtime in their last game that they played against Penn State, but they wound up digging themselves out of a 1-goal deficit, and winning that game in overtime with Mackie Samoskevich. And it would be fitting for Samoskevich to do something similar in this game, the Connecticut native. Quinnipiac, obviously, in Hamden, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And his sisters, Maddie and Melissa, both played college hockey, the women's game, with the Bobcats. Maddie ended up losing in the quarterfinals of the women's ice hockey tournament. She scored a goal in the game against Ohio State in which the Bobcats lost 5-2. The Buckeyes were the #1 ranked team in the country, but they ended up losing in the final to Wisconsin. Another All-Big Ten final in women's hockey this year can be met with an All-Big Ten final in the men's side. If Michigan can win this game, tied 2-2, we're underway in the third period. Quinnipiac wins the draw. It's lost. Now Fantilli over the neutral zone. 2-on-1 with Brindley. Brindley misplays it off his skate, sends one left of the net, and it's attempted to be dug out by Fantilli. He does. Sends it along the boards to Pearson. Pearson D-to-D up to Hughes on the left side, sends one wide. Rebounds off the boards behind the net of Peretz. Stays with Michigan.
That ice looks great, William.
And Michigan needs it here, trying to keep it in the zone. They eventually lose it to the Bobcats. But Pearson picks it up from Skylar Brindamore, who can't hang on. Brindley will reset for Michigan. Quickly now, skating over center ice is Gavin Brindley, the freshman from Estero, Florida. Sends one behind the net. It's dug out by Peretz. Yaniv Peretz tries to send it to a teammate, but Dylan Duke, bothering the few Bobcats around him, eventually turns the puck over to Michigan, where it's Seamus Casey coming up alongside the right side faceoff circle. Shot, gets his own rebound, then fires another one wheeling around the other side of the goal line.
And a missed interference call, in my opinion.
And now it sets up a Quinnipiac fast break, and that puck is almost gloved by Portillo, and he sends it back in off his back skate. Oh, my goodness.
And that's Lipkin.
That Portillo, it was a fast break opportunity off of what David said he thought was a missed interference call. An easy manufactured play for the Bobcats. They send it down. Portillo looked to have gloved the shot, but it just goes out. Off the rebound, it trickles out behind the net. It's sent back in by Lipkin towards the crease, goes off the back of the skate of Portillo, and ricochets into the net. The Bobcats have a 3-2 lead.
Wow, Sam Lipkin, his 14th goal this season, making his 40th point.
He's been a dynamite freshman for them, property of the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, one of the few drafted players on this Quinnipiac roster.
And that is not what the Wolverines needed now down 3-2. First faceoff after that goal is going to have to be redrawn.
And a former teammate, by the way, of Adam Fantilli on Chicago Steel in the USHL last season. So whatever you say about these teams not really knowing each other, that is not true. There are some familiar faces to these star players.
3-2. 18:25 to go in the third period. Michigan now is going to be playing on their back heel for the rest of it until they can tie it back up again. Kiernan along the neutral zone. Dug out by Christophe Tellier for Quinnipiac.
And that missed interference call is not going
Here
to be
comes
called.
Joey Cipollone inside all alone off the side post. And Michigan still playing sloppy in this third period. It seemed like they had gotten out of that funk during the second, but they're back into it. Now a poke check by Luke Hughes comes away with the puck, loses it. Good defensive play by Michael Lombardi to keep possession away from the Wolverines on the fast break. Now sends it in. A shot by Cipollone. Pass goes off his skate. He can't gather it cleanly, and the shot's a bit wild. Cipollone behind the net. Ricochets it back to Lombardi. Lombardi in the right corner. Skating behind the net, trying to find a teammate, bothered by Luke Hughes. Forces a pass up the boards. Hughes ends up with it. Passes along the boards. And Friedman attempted to dump it back down to a teammate towards the blue line. It went wide. Portillo now wheeling around the net was Cipollone once again. He's been a menace on this attacking possession for the Bobcats. Wolverines desperately just trying to get it out. Luke Hughes weakly does. And Quinnipiac, a fast break opportunity. Luke Hughes had a soft clear that kept it in Michigan's zone long enough for the Wolverines to be unable to get a line change. And Luke Hughes has just, I don't know where his head has gone in this game.
Neither do I. And that top line for the Bobcats combining for 7 points. Not where the Wolverines expected to be in this third period. Quite frankly, not where we thought they would be too, especially dominating that second. What can they do to fight back, tie this game up? It's going to start with those grinders.
16:54 to go, and they're back on the ice, but that deep pairing of Casey and Hughes is out there, the offensive defenseman for the Wolverines. Michigan wins the draw. Stop it checked in the board. Sends it out of play. And we'll see where the faceoff ends up being. I think they're signaling back towards the Michigan dot closest to them. Not in the faceoff circles, but the far side dot closer to Michigan's end. 3-2. 16:45 to go in the third period. Estapa set to take another faceoff.
Wolverines have kept their play pretty clean for the most part. A lot of speculation that this would turn ugly like a lot of their games do, especially in those Big Ten matchups with lots of penalties. But so far, so good tonight. Only a couple penalties, but
Casey off the faceoff, tries to dump it into a stop on the right side, fight for the puck with Granowitz. It's lost to the Bobcats. Granowitz does poke it away, though, from the Bobcat DeYoung. DeYoung has to send it back towards the net of Peretz, where it's picked up by Quinnipiac. Quinnipiac sends it back up. Now, looks like Brindamore there. A wheeling shot goes wide left. Portillo can't put his stick on it. It ricochets back out, where it's picked up by Ethan Edwards. Tries to pass to McGroarty on the left side. McGroarty keeping possession. Pearson right side. A shot is up above the net. Off the backboards, kept by McGroarty. Left side, now Fantilli. Fantilli, just a shot off the left side post, is kept by Jake Johnson, the defenseman. He loses the puck, and it's poked away by Fantilli, who sends it back behind the net of Peretz. Peretz up to Lipkin, but the pass gets away. Duke and Quillen fighting for it. Quillen, who had the first 2 goals in the game for the Bobcats, can't maintain possession. It's sent back down, where it's picked up by Legault, the defenseman, in the Quinnipiac zone. The Bobcats, Lipkin, across center ice. Big check! Oh, my goodness! Sent flying. Keaton Pearson.
On Colin Graff. That's got to hurt.
Graff. That's a big hit by Pearson. But Michigan can't make anything come of it on a fast break opportunity. It's now the Bobcats coming back down. Fillion has it.
Yeah, welcome to the NCAA from, well, he was already there. But
welcome to Big League Hockey.
Big League Hockey, yeah.
And if Michigan can score a goal to tie it, that's what he would be saying. But
yeah.
I think Graff would just say scoreboard. Hughes on the left side. Up to the point. Kiernan, Holtz right side. Now Kiernan skating around after the pass by Holtz got sent along the boards.
It sounds simple, but if the Wolverines are going to tie this game up, they need to start making high-danger scoring opportunities. They have not generated those.
They've got to get the energy going once again. That's how they thrive. They can't be playing scared. 14:20 to go in the third period. In front of the net, a non-shot by Seamus Casey. He had something in the slot there. Chose not to shoot it, passed it back out. Wolverines dominating possession since that Quinnipiac goal.
Just what the Wolverines needed here, a power play. 14 minutes, 8 seconds remaining here in this third period of hockey. Wolverines down a goal. Number 13 for Quinnipiac headed to the box.
Christoph Fillion. And
the Quebecer.
We reach a media timeout. Michigan does have a 2-minute power play. Christoph Fillion goes to the box. It was a tripping penalty against, well, it was to Jackson Hallam, who lost his stick. And Michigan's going to have a shot to tie this game out of the media break. But as we go to this media break, and with Quinnipiac in the lead, we'll talk about the last time they were in Tampa. The Frozen Four was here in 2016. Quinnipiac beat Boston College in that first round to go to the national title game against the North Dakota Fighting Hawks, which they lost 5-1. That was the last time they were in the national title game. They had lost one previously in 2013 to Yale. Head coach Rand Pecknold told the Detroit News, "They gave us a lot, and we couldn't handle it." That could be something that said if Quinnipiac wins this game and moves on to Minnesota, that could be a similar refrain. Michigan hopes it isn't that, but this is the last time that the Bobcats were in Tampa. And remember, they have not lost a national semifinal game in their 2 previous chances.
No, and right now it's turning out to look a lot like the Wolverines are in that Quinnipiac's where Quinnipiac was their last time they were here in Tampa Bay. And you know what? I think that's because of the neutral zone play. What have the Wolverines been doing in the neutral zone in the first and the third period? What is the similarity between the two of those periods? Well, it's their failure to make anything happen, and it's the amount of turnovers they're making in that zone. That is really holding them back. That has hurt their ability to make these high profile or to make these high danger scoring chances. And when they're not able to get these high danger chances, right? You see, there has been 4 or 5 slot shots against Portillo in this period alone. It's only been it hasn't even been 6 minutes yet. The Wolverines have had 1 or 2, and they're making the extra pass every single time. So
here we go, broken stick off the face-off. It is Gavin Brindley skating off the ice, so it's 4-on-4 here in the offensive zone. Brindley picks up a stick, comes back into play. Fantilli on the right side. Samoskevich in the slot, high.
Big save.
His shot is saved by Yaniv Peretz.
Big save. Not a great shot. Right at his chest. You see,
but
Gavin,
you do need to just put shots on net that Michigan has not really done that often in this game. You've got to get opportunities down by 1 with as much time as they have left.
It's a progression, right? You want to get shots on net, but you also want to get high danger scoring shots as well. And so for the Wolverines, they're missing both.
Yep.
This power play, this is their chance. This is make or break.
Fantilli in the Bobcat zone loses the face-off, and it just leaks out into the neutral zone. Samoskevich will have to reset.
But
small forecheck applied by DeYoung. He's a aggravating forward defensively, and I think Michigan just committed an offsides.
Well, I think do we think this forward group is going to stay out there? I think they are.
They should. Fantilli needs to be out there. He's the team's best player. They need a goal. They go to him.
Yeah.
And he's got one already. He's warm. He's only been held pointless in 3 games this season. He's come through, and the Wolverines have needed him most. He's still on the ice. 1:25 left on the power play. Filion in the box for tripping for the Bobcats, and the Bobcats on the kill send another puck back across the neutral zone. Hughes retrieves. Hughes leaves it for Fantilli. Fantilli right side Brindley. Brindley tries to send it back up to Fantilli, and it's killed once again nicely by Desi Burgart. That defensive forward lineup skates off, though, for Quinnipiac for the last minute of this power play. Wolverines can exploit something here. Hughes just sends it backwards for Fantilli, who retrieves in the zone. That same forward group for Michigan out there, they want a score bad. Brindley poked away. Fantilli keeps it in the corner. Hughes, left side. Back to Hughes. His one-timer is blocked effectively by Skylar Brindamore.
And he's hurting a little bit, but he'll stay out there.
Fantilli back up to Hughes. Hughes this time hesitates, now fires. Off the rebound on the backboard, left side goes to Brindley. Fantilli inside to Ciccolini. Back out Hughes. Now Ciccolini. Wrister is just off the post. They'll call no goal.
Wow.
20 seconds left on the power play. Ciccolini still out there. Michigan battling. Brindley one shot. Rebound still in front of the net is sent back out by Quinnipiac, and Michigan can't buy an offensive chance on this power play that goes well for them. Casey out there for the Wolverines. Skating through the neutral zone, trying to get it on sides. The Bobcats return to full strength, and nothing comes of the power play yet again for the Wolverines.
Tonight, both teams.
And now a fast break opportunity. Here's Lipkin, a goal already, sends one in front of the net. A diving Portillo, still diving. Portillo makes another save. Oh my goodness, he's still on the ground. And it could be cleared. It's not. Stays with Quinnipiac, but Portillo back on his feet. He was just staying on the ground. Didn't know if the puck was underneath him. Off the rebound, he just sends one while he's flailing on the ice. Bobcats still have it. Left side, Rassinen. Up to Nordqvist on the right side. Estapa makes a big check, and the Bobcats will have to, reset with 11:25 to go. Michigan, again, needs to wake up. Now a pass inside, picked off by Kiernan. Here comes Jay, up to Estapa, left side. Pass goes through his legs. Nazar trying to pick it up before it gets behind the net. He's bothered by a few Bobcats. Now Estapa fighting for it. It's won by Quinnipiac.
Both teams unsuccessful in their power plays tonight. 0 for 5 combined.
And Nordqvist checked, loses the puck, sends it along the boards to Filion, who's back on after the power play. Comes away to Jackson Hallam. Hallam to Nazar in front, working in the high slot, loses the puck. 10:46 to go. Sent back down on the ice into the Michigan zone for an icing.
It is tense here in Tampa. The crowd is quiet. There aren't too many Bobcat fans here. It's mostly a Big Ten showing if you look at the jerseys. Maybe a sprinkling of red for those Boston University fans here, but it is quiet. People are nervous here, and this is the best chance that Wolverines have had. I mean, I would even say since even before last year.
And this Michigan was favored in this game coming into it, so this would be an upset if it were to be pulled off by the Bobcats, even though they are the higher seed. Vegas had Michigan as the better odds to win this game. Luke Hughes off the face-off for Michigan, skating across the neutral zone. Dumps it off McGroarty right side. Inside Fantilli tries to get a slot shot going. Can't corral it. Casey off the screen of McGroarty, and it's sent back out. That number one offensive line back out there for the Wolverines, though. Portillo knocks one over to Casey on the right side. Up to Brindley. Sends one across the boards. Nobody home for Michigan. They'll have to reset if they regain possession. Fantilli does. Shoves one up. It was a pop-up that was played by the Bobcats. Estapa now sends one all the way back to behind Parrott's net.
10 minutes left here in this third period.
It's time when the teams that want it more than the other ones separate themselves. A shot inside by Cipollone, who's played well today, is stopped by Portillo in front of the net. And Lombardi and Edwards in the left corner grabbing each other's jerseys. It's been chippy today, but they haven't come to blows fully. I think both teams know that their presence on the ice is more important than a 5-minute major.
Yeah, so for those just tuning in, the score is 3-2. The Bobcats leading the Wolverines here with 9:47 remaining in this third period of hockey. We're wondering what will happen first. Will Kellen get into Ricks, or will the Wolverines score the much-needed third goal to tie this game and get the Wolverines potentially into that final game on Saturday night? The Wolverines most recently blowing a power play, a Ciccolini shot, ricocheting off of the crossbar and the near post. And just, wow, what a brutal chance. As now we see this timeout here. Wolverines coach Brennan Narado collecting his group of forwards. You see who's going to stay out there. Looks like it's going to be that defensive, those bulwarks. Estapa, Moyle, Granowitz, and then on the back end, I'm struggling to see, but I think it's Kiernan and Stephen Holtz. Maybe they're switching it up and putting Edwards with Kiernan.
Well, you need some sort of offense, but Michigan has played well with those defensive defensemen, Kiernan and Holtz. I think they've really done well.
Yeah, they've definitely been the best
for the Bobcats.
Tonight.
And that's kind of been the story in these postseason games. Luke Hughes has not looked great. Seamus Casey had the taken himself goal earlier in the first period, but other than that, hasn't done a lot. Pearson's played well, but I don't know. I don't know what you roll out there other than that first offensive line. That's really all you can rely on.
Yeah. You know, it's late in these games that you see the most change-up between these lines, but it is a nail-biter here in Tampa. Again, 9:47 remaining in this third period of hockey. The score is 3-2. Bobcats are leading the Wolverines in sunny Florida. Face-off coming on the far side in the Wolverines' defensive end. That checking line out. I stand corrected. I see Samoskevich out there.
So it's a bit of a mix-up. It's Duke, but Estapa's also there to take the face-off against Jacob Quillen in the Wolverine zone. Trying not to let up another goal.
When in doubt, shake up the lineups.
It's a big lineup out there for Michigan. Won by the Wolverines, but in front of the net goes Edwards, eventually picked up by Samoskevich. Loses it, ends up back in Samuskevich's hands after a misplay by the Bobcats. But Mackey's chased on the forecheck by Colin Graff, doing it on both ends, an offensive superstar who is putting in work on the defensive end. Hughes, though, breaks the press, gets through the neutral zone. Estapa tripped, no penalty called. Bobcats out and running. Quillen, left side. Tries to dump it in, but it's turned over. Here comes Estapa, trying to work across the neutral zone and keep the puck. He doesn't do that. It's lost behind the net of the Bobcats. They'll slow down. get some reinforcements off the bench, and move forward.
Yeah, 9 minutes remaining here in this third period. Not a lot of time for the Wolverines to come back. Can they do it?
Behind that net is Metza, the captain for the Bobcats. Pass up the ice, 2-on-1 fast break opportunity, and Portillo just saves it with his leg protector. And the Michigan defense that's let him out to dry, he's done the best that he can.
No,
what a
he is
save by Eric Portillo.
By far.
Shot all the way on the other end opportunity for Seamus Casey is gloved by Peretz.
So these lineups that are, or these lineups that are getting changed, I mean, we're looking at this.
Just a skate length. If that puck was out there, it would have been the fourth goal of the game for
That's like his fourth leg save so far. He has just been left out to dry. It's absurd.
Michigan
what
not
are they doing?
with their heads in this game, it seems, on defense. And they're lucky to have only 3 goals scored against them. They've been playing sloppy all day on that end. Now have a face-off in the Bobcat zone. Fantilli quick shot off the face-off won by Brindley, just wide of the net.
Kiernan with Hughes. But that high-scoring second line for the Wolverines
stays with the
out
Wolverines. There. Left side blue line, it's Hughes. Hughes knocks one in. Can't get by the screener. It's gloved again by Peretz.
8:24 remaining. The clock is ticking down. There haven't been that many stoppages of play now. The Wolverines finally getting a little bit of offensive momentum going. A little bit is probably the most accurate descriptor here. It's definitely too early to pull the goalie, but I don't think the Wolverines have the ability or the confidence in the neutral zone. Not to be a Debbie Downer, it is a bit. It's going to be getting a little bit desperate in the next couple of minutes.
They get another face-off.
What is going to happen?
The Wolverines do. It's Nazar taking it for Michigan. It's won by Samoskevich. Wheels around right side. Tries to dump it off to Nazar. It's turned over. Bobcats have it. It's Lipkin. Just sends it back behind the net of Portillo, where Edwards is checked by Graff. It's picked up, though, by Nazar. Cross center ice. Drops off to Samoskevich. Samoskevich on the right wing. Wolverines bunched up. They can't find a teammate. It's Nazar and Samoskevich. Eventually, Casey has it. He lifts one that's corralled by a Bobcat before he sends it back up to Casey, who just shovels it to the left side corner where it's picked up at Quinnipiac.
Bobcats going for a line change. Wolverines as well. 7:40 remaining here. Fantilli out on the ice for the Wolverines. Adam, that is.
Crosses center ice. Adam Fantilli. A shot is off the leg protector of Peretz. And we haven't seen Luca Fantilli in this game. He's listed. Philip Lapointe is not, as dressed. And now Fantilli keeps it on his stick behind the net as Quinnipiac attempted a rush. Here's Pearson. Left side now Fantilli. Fantilli drops it off to Pearson once again. In the high slot, it's turned over once again to the stick of Christophe Tellier.
Not even too hot to handle, just a turnover.
Tellier sends it behind the net once again. Quinnipiac sends one in. Just an easy goal scored by the Bobcats on the right side. I don't think Portillo was ready.
From a 1-goal deficit against Penn State to win in overtime. But
2 goals shot in front of the net is wide right by Granowitz. He's diving for it on the ice. Keeps it behind the net.
They need a goal now.
Edwards playing with pressure, keeping it at the point. Now inside Halem left wing. Halem bothered. Has to send it back behind the net once again. Here's Nolan Moyle. Wheeling around the left side. Over right to Casey. Casey nowhere going on that pass or a shot. I don't know. Edwards. Now Granowitz behind the net. No. Edwards. Now Granowitz behind the net. Trying to just dump one off into the corner that Peretz leaves open behind the net. Still kept by Michigan in the offensive zone. Halem sends one in. It's blocked nicely by Jake Johnson.
6 minutes remaining now in this third period of hockey. Deficit is 2 for the Wolverines. There is not much time remaining.
Halem sends one back into the zone to Edwards. Inside of 6 minutes, Wolverines down 2-4. After the goal from the captain, Zach Metza, put the Bobcats up by 2. Here's Hughes across center ice. Drops it off to TJ Hughes. And Luke Hughes off another pass, loses the puck. Right side, here come the Bobcats. They just dump it in. They just want to play defense. No use in starting some fast break opportunities for the Wolverines. Michigan will have to reset with Samoskevich behind the net.
Portillo might be getting ready to leave his crease.
And with 5 minutes left, we saw Boston University down 4-2. They did a similar thing and ended up losing 6-2. Here's a nice pass from Samoskevich, left wing, Dylan Duke. He just loses the puck without a shot. It was a great look, but no shot on goal from Duke. And again, the Wolverines are forced to retreat into their own end. Hughes wheels back, passes across to Samoskevich. Now left side, Kiernan.
The door on the bench will be opening shortly.
5 minutes to go. Again, sent all the way back down the ice. Brindley has to chase it down in a foot race. Big collision with Desi Burgart in the left corner by Portillo. Ends up with Michigan. Here's McGroarty. Tries to dump it off to an awaiting teammate and turns it over. Burgart chasing after Ethan Edwards. He eventually pokes it free, but it's recovered by Seamus Casey. Casey, left side, Fantilli, a long shot from the blue line on the left side is blocked by Peretz. Now Brindley inside. Puck still in front of the net off the rebound, gathered by the Bobcats, sent back down the ice. 4 minutes to go. Portillo, after it's sent all the way back down by TJ Friedman, sends it along to a teammate. Now here's Casey behind the net. Casey wheels around. 4 minutes to go. Up to Nazar, crossing center ice. Frank Nazar III turns it over to Jake Johnson. Johnson now working behind the net, trying to get past Hallam and Holtz. Now a ricochet was in front of the net for a second. Michigan couldn't put a shot on it. 3:45 to go. You have to think the next time the Wolverines have possession in the Quinnipiac zone, they'll pull Eric Portillo down 2 with 3.5 minutes to go in this national semifinal. Hallam flips it up. Right corner. A fight for it. Kiernan can't keep it. Pearson can't keep it. Left side. Quillen has an easy pass to a teammate and just doesn't get it to him, but it was uncovered. Quinnipiac had a chance. Lipkin fighting for it in the corner with a couple Wolverines, comes away to Hughes. 3:11 to go. Wolverines down 2. Nolan Moyle out there, turns it over to Jaden Lee. Lee back to Johnson. D-to-D pass. Up ice into the corner. There's Edwards. Now left side, Duke. Loses the puck. Ends with Burgart. He sends it back down. Now the Wolverines have a chance reclaiming the puck. Samoskevich backwards to Hughes. Tries a shot, but it's deflected, and Samoskevich can't recover.
And Portillo officially off the ice now as the Wolverines bring on the extra attacker.
You got to have him off. 2:40 to go. Wolverines down 2. Fantilli up to Hughes. Bobcats had possession, but it was saved, the empty net goal, by Casey. 6-on-5 for the Wolverines in the Bobcat zone. 2:30 to go. Down 2. Scrum for the puck in the back half of the net. The Bobcats send it down into the Wolverine zone where Michigan will recover with Samoskevich. No, it'll be called an icing. 2:19 to go. An icing called. So we'll have a face-off in the Bobcat net, and the air has just been taken out after that. Really, I mean, I was surprised that shot went in by Metsa. That still just confounds me that shot went in. Like I said, it looked like a fadeaway 3 from the right side in between the blue line and the face-off circle. It was just a lackadaisical shot that he put perfectly placed in the top shelf left corner where Portillo couldn't get to it. And with 2:19 to go, unless there's a miracle happening here in Tampa, Michigan's going to go home once again without making it to the title game the second straight season.
Yeah, Michigan making a timeout now. 2:19 remaining here in this third period. I'm at a loss for words.
And this is what happens when you start as slow as they did in the first period. You go down 2-1. That's tough to recover from. And then it seemed like they got the momentum back. Then they just lost all their energy in the third period, letting up that quick goal to the Bobcats. They put in another one, go up 4-2, and it looks like that's going to do it.
Yeah, those 2 goals that have come in this third period are not what Adam Portillo deserved based off of how he played tonight. I'm just going to say that. Adam Portillo played his heart out. And no matter what happens, he was the Wolverines' MVP. Well, he's the reason it's not 6-2.
It is that way, but there's multiple ways to blame Michigan for this performance tonight. And Eric Portillo has played well.
He did give up a cheese goal. That last one was
that one was tough. That went off his back skate, and then he's made some. I mean, kind of everyone's made some just boneheaded plays for Michigan tonight. Another timeout for Michigan. I think that last one was to the Bobcats charged.
Yeah.
So we'll have another timeout.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everyone except for, I'd say, like Fantilli and Samoskevich have just kind of lost their head tonight.
No, I completely agree.
And that has been the problem for Michigan all season. If you have any knock on this team, it's that it's really hard for them to play in structure. They have a lot of talent, but they often rely on that foremost.
Yeah.
And you see it coming to a head against a team like Quinnipiac, where their system and their discipline will win this kind of game. It remains to be seen if they do it against Minnesota, but they've done it here tonight so far, barring a miracle.
No, I completely agree. And also, look, the Wolverines had 3 power plays. They're the 7th rated power play in the league. And to have not a single goal is, it's emblematic of how they've struggled in tonight's game to just get going, right? They're the second man to every puck in the offensive zone. And so without being a total downer, there still is time left in this game. 2 minutes, 19 seconds, 2 timeouts now. Wolverines down 2 goals against Bobcats. Anything can happen, but we'll see. Wolverines need a goal now.
They do win the draw. 6-on-5. Hughes at the point. Shot. Soft wrister is blocked by the Bobcats. DeYoung can't keep it for Quinnipiac. Fantilli misses it off the ricochet. This has a chance. No, it'll go wide of the empty net for an icing. So it'll stay down in the Bobcat zone, and the Wolverines will still keep this extended power play with the empty net goal.
And Wolverines need that. They need these short offensive spurts. They're shooting. They're shooting to score, of course, but they want Peretz to hold the puck and not let this time just tick
Here we go.
down.
Off the face-off, Michigan wins it. McGroarty loses it, and Quinnipiac has a chance at an empty net that's saved by Luke Hughes, but he loses the puck, and now the Bobcats racing in. Adam Fantilli playing goalie. You don't want that. It's scored.
And who other than Ethan DeYoung,
Bobcats
the
go up
grad
5-2.
student. That's probably the nail
That'll do it. I mean,
for the Wolverines.
you don't want Adam Fantilli as awesome as he is. He's not a goalie.
Wow. Well, I would say the Wolverines fan base is surprised.
If
That is a
anything, if
surprise.
this was going to be a 3-goal blowout, you'd expect it to be on Michigan's side with the talent differential. And a clipping penalty goes against Michigan.
Yeah, that's it.
So that'll be it. It's Luke Hughes in the box. That's going to do it. Quinnipiac is going to advance to the national title game. They're still undefeated in national semifinals.
Wow.
Michigan, for the second straight season, leaves the Frozen Four empty-handed after losing in overtime to Denver last season, the eventual national champions. Despite advancing to their nation-leading 27th Frozen Four, Michigan will not win their 10th national title in their 100th season of playing hockey, unfortunately. As nice as that would be,
Yes.
with all those round numbers, they haven't won one
Certainly.
in 25 years. It'd be their 10th in 100 years. But it's not going to happen this season, and it's another golden chance let slip by the Wolverines. It'll be the 8th time in the Frozen Four that they've walked away without the national title since 1998. So here from Tampa, with 1:23 to go, the Wolverines will try and make it a little bit more palatable. Eric Portillo back out there on the ice with Quinnipiac up 5-2. 1:15 to go. And we've entered the somber space of hockey that doesn't really mean anything because it's over. And now the Bobcats
they'll keep trying to
inside
score.
the net. Quillen going for the hat trick. Shot off a rebound is played away by the Wolverine defense. Now Quillen ends up back with it. We'll see if he really wants that third goal. He's taken it himself. Now drops it off for a teammate. Good glove save on a Colin Graff shot from Eric Portillo, but we haven't seen that a lot tonight from Portillo.
No.
A lot of body saves or mistakes from the junior goalie, who is almost assuredly gone to the NHL after this season to the LA Kings system. He does have to sign. He can be an unrestricted free agent if he chooses.
Yeah.
But that leaves a hole at goalie for the Wolverines next year. Noah West plans on transferring. He was already a transfer in from Robert Morris. So Michigan, just with freshmen or transfers to occupy the net for them next season, it's the only retained goalie next season is the freshman Tyler Shea. So you'd expect them to go to the portal for a goalie. Inside of 30 seconds now, 5-2. Quinnipiac's going to win this. Empty net. We'll see if they add a sixth. Empty net shot missed by Christophe Tellier. Won't make it 6-2. And a Quillen attempt at another empty net goal is played away by Eric Ciccolini. That'll do it. 10 seconds left. Michigan will lose this one 5-2 unless this puck dribbles into the empty net. No, that'll do it. Last shot goes wide right, and Michigan shut out after the second period. Quinnipiac charges the ice. Amalie Arena has basically emptied. The vast majority of non-Michigan fans and Michigan fans, except for Quinnipiac fans, have left. That'll do her. 5-2. The Bobcats put the hammer down after Michigan ties it at 2. 2 third-period goals before the empty netter by the Bobcats. They win this one. The Wolverines will go home, and you have to wonder who's going to come back next year, David.
Yeah.
They got a lot of guys with NHL pedigree.
Wow.
Samoskevich, Fantilli, Duke, McGroarty, Hallam, Ciccolini's a senior, Nazar, and then you got those senior lines of Granowitz and Moyle and Pearson, Kiernan, Hughes and Edwards are both property of the Devils. We'll see if Casey goes. He's also a Devils draft pick. This is just not the ideal scenario for the Wolverines to walk away this season empty-handed with a title. They've had 3 seasons of like top 5 NHL draft picks on their team, and they can't walk away with the hardware that means the most.
Yeah, nope, you're completely right. They blew it. I don't think there's another way to kind of say it. And I think, you know what? All the credit in the world to Quinnipiac hockey.
Oh, yeah, they played a great game. They remind me, when I played high school football, we played against a tiny little team with only about 30 players, but they played so disciplined that they just beat the crap out of us, and that's what the Bobcats did tonight. Michigan tied it up. They looked like they had the juice going into that second period. Bobcats shut the door. They said, no, we're a little bit more disciplined than you. We're older than you. We play together for longer. Colin Graff didn't even do anything in this game. He's the Bobcats' best player. And he was just out there really as a decoy. It was
wait, that's a really good descriptor.
It was Sam Lipkin and Jacob Quillen. And Ethan DeYoung played well.
Yanni Peretz doing his job.
Michael Lombardi, the assistant captain on the 4th line, graduate, did a great job. And these guys have earned they've earned it to advance to the national title game.
And they're coming in. They're playing with the house's money. Sure, they definitely want to win. They were the best team in college hockey, at least from a record.
And it'll be fun on Saturday. We'll be rooting for them.
Yeah, no, certainly. Certainly, we will be. I think it would be we would be doing a disservice to this team to not be supporting a team that honorably beat the Wolverines fair and square.
And Michigan losing to Denver last year. Denver won the national championship.
Yeah.
After beating the Wolverines in the first round.
Yep.
So this isn't going to help Michigan's legacy of choking in the 21st century in big moments. They've gone to Frozen Fours, multiple. They've gone to multiple national basketball championships. They've gone to multiple now college football playoffs. They've even gone to a college baseball World Series. None of the 4 major North American men's sports has Michigan walked away with a title, even though they've gone to the final. I think that's what. I mean, since over the past 10 years, they've gone to 7 finals, or at least opportunities, Final Four sort of situations. 2 title games in basketball, 1 title series in baseball, 2 playoffs in football, and then 2 Frozen Fours in hockey. No trophies to show for it. The last trophy in a Michigan men's major sport was this hockey team's 1998 championship. Before that, 97 one in football.
Was that the lacrosse school one, or was that 96?
Doesn't matter at this point. We're just waiting for something, the fortunes of this hockey program to change.
Yeah, no, they're starting to look like the basketball team to me a little bit.
Well, Michigan is the historically most successful college hockey program. They just haven't done it in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
They've got that like UCLA claim to fame in basketball, or I don't know. Give me a team in football that hasn't won recently. But Bama's won recently.
That hasn't won recently.
An
Michigan?
Old power. Texas.
Yeah.
Texas, I think, would be the best comparison to Michigan hockey Texas football.
Yeah.
I mean, this one just stings.
That was a disappointing game.
This one just stings a
I would have
lot.
liked to see. I don't know. I wonder what this does for Luke Hughes. Do you think he comes back next year?
He didn't play well in this postseason at all, I don't think. I mean, he looked lost out there, and I don't know if he wants to be here or not anymore or what he's dealing with. He was hurt.
He did get injured before
but he came back and he looked good.
Well, kinda.
Over the past couple games, it just, I mean, I don't know. This was a completely different team than from what we saw in Allentown. I mean, they won 11-1 against the team that beat Quinnipiac the week before. And then they beat a conference rival in a pseudo home game in Allentown in overtime. And then they come out here, and this was an egg laying. They didn't play competitively outside of one period. And that was the second, which is not the most important.
Yeah.
The third period is the most important to play your best period in.
Well, that tonight definitely leaves a sour taste in the mouths of thousands of Michigan fans, and
you wonder who comes back next year.
Yeah, who knows? They don't know. I'll say this.
Yeah,
that team does not know. That team now official, no longer interim head coach Brandon Narado is going to think. And who is he looking at in this locker room? It's not a finger. There's no blame, right? There's no finger pointing. That's pointless. The game's over. But who is he thinking?
Jacob Truscott will be back. On defense. We'll see if Luke Hughes goes. Portillo and West, the two goalies, will be gone.
Yeah.
I don't know who has COVID years and who doesn't. You can never know these days. Nolan Moyle is a graduate, so he will be gone. The captain will be graduated. Michigan will have a new captain next season.
Who knows who that will be?
Other seniors include Nick Granowitz, Keaton Pearson, Jake Kiernan. And you have to imagine if any of those guys come back for a fifth year, they'd end up wearing the C, right?
Yeah.
Because it always ends up being a very long-term player. Nick Blankenberg was the previous captain before Moyle.
A great captain.
Who's doing well with Columbus right now. Surprisingly, I mean, he was a smaller defenseman, but he's making it in the NHL the best he can. But that'll probably do her.
I think so.
5-2. Michigan loses in the national semifinal. We appreciate all of you joining us tonight on WCBN Sports. It wasn't the outcome that Michigan fans would hope for, but it's the outcome that happened, and Michigan hockey will be back next season. They've had a really great extended stretch of form dating back to last year, making the Frozen Four. 2021 was a good year. And Brandon Narado, the future's bright. Former Michigan forward, really young coach, only the 10th coach in program history after Red Berenson's extended reign into Mel Pearson, now Narado. But you'd hope for the freshman class coming in to be better. The transfers coming in to be better. Michigan State is gearing up under head coach Adam Nightingale. They got Red Savage, who's a property of the Detroit Red Wings, in the draft, transferring from Miami of Ohio. So Michigan State's going to be beefed up. You have to imagine that some of these players from Minnesota will be back next season. Ohio State looks good, but they were an older team. Penn State. The Big Ten's deep. Wisconsin's got a new head coach. So if any opportunity, these past 2 years were the best two opportunities for Michigan to win it all. And they just didn't.
Yep.
So we'll hope the next season it'll be better for him, but that'll do it. For David Kramer, I've been William Gregory. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to go enjoy our weekend in Tampa, I think, and sleep this one off. This is a tough one. You might see us in the Ybor City bars with the Michigan Daily folks. But
hey,
thank you for joining us. We'll have baseball and softball broadcasts all throughout this weekend.
And thanks for listening.
And for the rest of the season. That'll do it for Michigan hockey for the 2022-2023 season. We'll be back for 2023-2024. David,
this is
for
my
your last
game.
Broadcast. Graduated. I'm a junior. I'll be back, but I'll probably see the main play-by-play hockey
try and
duties.
be at the Frozen Four next year.
We'll see what's up. Thank you to everybody in the chat. It was a fun night.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. Don't take our slightly somber, well, definitely somber tones.
It's just another national title that ends up down the drain.
Hey, we're happy we made it. That's what I would say when I was a freshman, probably.
Now that you're a senior.
But now we're still happy.
All right. Well,
thanks, folks. Good night.
Thank you, folks. Good night. And as we always leave you with, go Blue.
And thank you, Dependent Fanatic, as well.
Thank you,
Just
Dependent
a
Fanatic. Shout out. Go
Yeah,
Blue,
shout
Dependent
out,
Fanatic.
Go Blue.
Woo!
Go Blue. Bye-bye.